what does AI mean?
Artificial intelligence, or AI, is humans' attempt to create what we believe is intelligence.
Hello world, my name is Data Mining Mike, and on today's episode of the podcast, my guest today is Daniel Black. Daniel's an AI enthusiast and expert in the world of technology and information systems. We cover more than just AI. We talk about New Zealand and advanced cybersecurity issues. But first, AI news. Google has announced it's going to restrict the types of questions users can ask related to the elections when using Google's new chatbot, Gemini. Good. Well, Daniel, tell the world about you.
Yeah, so I am 28 years old. I'm born and raised in Spokane. I've lived here since I was 16 and then moved to New Zealand in 2012. Lived there until 2021. Moved back to here due to some mental depression and have been trying to figure out what to do with my life since then.
Cool. So how did you end up in New Zealand?
Yeah, so my stepdad is from there originally, and he traveled the world to kind of deal with some personal stuff and met my mom over in England, and then they ended up getting married, and my mom had a bit of a mental breakdown, and so she wanted a change of environment, and the States weren't kind of doing so well, and so we looked elsewhere, and New Zealand was kind of always an option that my parents wanted to explore, and so in 2012 they decided to make the choice to move, and so me, my brother, and my older sister, I'm the youngest of four, so me, my older brother, and my older sister moved with us. My sister ended up moving back because her application got denied by the New Zealand government, and then we lived there for 9 years, did my last year of high school there. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little slice of paradise.
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. So is your mom British?
No. My mom is born and raised in Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he just happened to meet her in England.
Yeah. She was traveling, I think, for work, if I remember correct. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you moved to New Zealand. How much of a culture shock was that?
In some ways, it's a big culture shock. In a lot of other ways, it's not really. So one of the biggest culture shocks is it's kind of like going in the past 10 years. Like New Zealand is behind in a lot of ways. So like, for example, the internet, when I first moved there was no internet plans where you could buy unlimited data. It was always capped internet. So anywhere from 50 megabytes was like the average data plan to 500 gigabytes was like the high-end kind of data plan. But of course, when you're like high school or playing video games, downloading stuff, 50 gigabytes is nothing. And so we'd go to our friend's house who had 500 gigabytes and we'd all just jam at his place. But yeah, in some ways you're going back in time. The other big culture shock is the Maori culture. So the natives there are called Maori, and they have a few kind of traditions. One called, I think, I can't remember the name of it, but it's where they basically touch noses and they breathe inwards.
That's a good way to get sick.
Well, the first time I experienced it was when you first go to high school, they welcome you to the high school by doing like a song and a dance and stuff. And like
cool.
The haka and stuff like that. And then they also do that breathing thing. And so this big old Maori dude grabbed my hand, pulled me real close, and touched my nose and breathed inwards. It was a bit of an awkward kind of like experience because I didn't know what was going on, So yeah, there's a couple things that are a big culture shock, but for the most part, it's kind of like here, which is nice. The weather is very nice. So they have opposite seasons. So it's winter here, it's summer there, summer here, winter there. But it's always sunny, always warm. It's only snow in the mountains unless you're down deep south. So it's a little slice of paradise for sure.
Yeah. I'm just imagining I'm glad you told me that. So if that ever happens to me with a New Zealander, I'm not going to be offended or be like, whoa, why is this guy getting right in my personal space and sniffing my face?
For somebody who's never seen or heard about it before, it's definitely an interesting experience for sure.
Cool. So you got serenaded as a new student in the school.
Pretty much. Yep.
Were you novel because you were white?
Not really. I mean, so obviously there is a large Pacific Islander population, but for the most part, it's pretty even. I would say it depends on it. Like North Island, obviously more islanders than there are on the South Island, just because it's a lot warmer on the North Island. But for the most part, it's pretty even spread most of the time. It just depends on where you are in the country.
Okay, so how many white people were there?
Decent amount. So if you're on the North Island, there's less white people. If you're on the South Island, there's more white people. But for the most part, I think it's about I don't know what the actual like demographic breakdown is, but I'd assume it's probably about like a fourth white, a fourth maybe a third Pacific Islander, and then there's actually quite a lot of Asians. So I think it's like 1 in every 4 people in Auckland is an Asian, and a fourth of the entire population lives in Auckland. Yeah, so.
Okay, so they did the haka for you too.
Yeah.
That must have been something cool to watch.
Yeah, they did the haka for a few different occasions. So like the graduation ceremony, they did a haka and stuff like that. To actually like be in a haka it's kind of weird to like watch a haka is one experience, but to actually be in a haka is a completely different experience because like you
were you in one?
I think it was in 2, but there's one I think that I distinctly remember, and I think that was the graduation haka. And yeah, like
they all get in the gym and they practice. I bet all the students know the haka, but you were like having to pick it up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Man, that must have been powerful.
For sure,
experience.
They get very like especially the women. The women are supposed to be like more fierce than the men, so they like get real into it.
Yeah, they're frightening when the women is like shit. Okay.
Yep.
Damn. So was it good for your guys' mental health? I mean, your mom had to move back to the States, but I guess...
Well, so she moved back because my granddad is getting quite old. He's suffering from Parkinson's disease, so she wanted to move back to spend the last couple of years with him. But it was good. Yep, it was definitely good for both. Mainly for my mom's mental health, it was really good. It was a good change. I think that one of the really positive things about New Zealand is it's very laid back compared to America. Mm-hmm. America is always like go, 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 whereas New Zealand, it's very, everything closes at 5 o'clock. There's nothing open 24/7.
Oh.
Like the whole country shuts down for 4 weeks every December and Christmas time. Even like the main newscasters go off. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So it's a very laid back. Like people are more worried about what's going on in rugby than what's going on in politics. So it's a very, very nice laid back country.
Well, it sounds like it would be better for your mental health.
Yeah, for sure.
And compared to that, here the hustle and bustle and
for sure.
And then coming back to the overcast in Washington and whatnot.
In the cold. Yep.
Yeah. So what were the winters like?
Actually, the winters in New Zealand, I would say, are probably worse than the winters here, and that's just because of the humidity. So the cold in New Zealand is more of like a bone-chilling cold. It really like seeps into you, whereas here it's kind of like surface-level cold. Like you put on a layer and you're pretty good. In New Zealand, you have to put on thermals, and you're still pretty cold. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, like it only gets cold at night times during the winter time. By about 10:30, it's warm, sun's out, any frost is gone. Like I said, there's no snow on the ground unless you're... Was there storms? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Not many, but when there were storms, they were pretty cool. Yeah. I can distinctly remember a few lightning storms. Like I said, not many, but when they were pretty full on, for sure.
Okay, so let me figure out the geography of where you were in New Zealand. So you were in the North Island?
Initially, yep.
So was this a separate island off of the mainland of New Zealand?
Yeah, so New Zealand's broken up into 2 islands. There's the North Island and the South Island. And there's just a little gap in between, which is like a little ferry ride, which is about like an hour or 2.
Yeah. Cool. So in order for you to do gaming parties with your friend, you guys had to get together and purchase more data.
Pretty much.
Just to get to, man, that's tough.
Well, like we were on, I think, 20 gigabytes a month. And so like I think I downloaded like the League of Legends game or something. And that was my entire that was all my data for that month. Yeah, and then you go back to dial-up, and it's like, oh man, yeah, it's horrible. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So talk about the driving situation. How did they drive? Were they on the opposite side of the car?
Yep. So for me, they drive on the right side of the road.
Okay.
The good side of the road. They drive on the left side of the road. The driver is on the right side. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it doesn't really make a difference until you're getting into a manual.
Yeah.
I find shifting with my left hand is a lot easier than shifting with my right hand. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it's not really much of a difference. The only thing you have to remember is the driver has to be the closest to the center line. Like, it's pretty easy to remember. Turning, can't remember if it's turning right is something you got to be careful of doing, because obviously here, turning right, you turn close. There, you have to turn wide. So I think I've only ended up in the wrong direction of traffic once, but yeah. A bit different, but I never drove much here, so pretty much all my driving was when I moved to New Zealand. So I learned my driving on the other side of the road.
Cool. Yeah. So how much of a switch was that coming back to the U.S.? It must have felt weird.
Yeah, especially coming back during the wintertime, coming back to snow and stuff. I'd never driven in snow, so I didn't drive for the first year that I got back, and then basically, like, as I needed to be able to get to places, I started to drive again. And so, yeah, I would say the driving test in New Zealand was harder than the driving test here, which is kind of weird. But
okay,
yeah, yeah, a little more strict on there. Like here, you can mess up a few things and still pass. There, if you can mess up a few things, but if you mess up like certain critical errors, you instantly fail. And yeah, so I'm not sure if that's like that here, but yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Talk about like the land. What was the country like?
Yeah, so over there it's called bush. There's no forest, and so the bush it's kind of hard to describe. But when you talk about like forests here, typically people think about rows and rows of trees. When you're talking about New Zealand bush, there's so much more than just trees. There's ferns, there are like mixed vegetation, and everywhere you go, it's all green. There's no, like, unless it's in the middle of like a farm field that's in between crops, everything is green, everything's luscious, everything's dense, it's nice. So the geography is wonderful. It's very windy. Driving is actually pleasant in New Zealand, only because I find here driving in a straight line all day is quite boring, whereas driving in New Zealand, there's no highway, so you can't drive straight unless you're on a straight stretch. Mm-hmm. So it's actually enjoyable to drive. You're always within 2 hours of the ocean. Literally the furthest place from the ocean is Hamilton, which is 2 hours. So you're always near the ocean, always got beautiful sights. You can go hunt whenever you want. There's no license or tags or any of that, none of that kind of system over there. So you can take out your rifle whenever you want and go out in the bush and go shoot something whenever you want and take it back and do whatever you want.
That's cool. That's definitely a good preserved native thing that they kept for their laws.
But you also have to remember that 3/4 of the country is uninhabited, and there's only 4.5 million people. So,
so how come that's the case, that it's so uninhabited?
A lot of it is because I think the Māoris wanted to preserve a lot. I'm not exactly sure why a lot of it's not. I think it's just because there's not a lot of people versus like the land to people ratio is probably quite large. But I think also the Māori have done a good job of kind of preserving what they think is important land to keep untouched. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a very contentious and well-known treaty called the Treaty of Waitangi, which I don't have enough background to really explain, but basically there was a treaty that was signed by the British Crown, which in exchange for basically New Zealand's sovereignty to the Crown, they exchanged a lot of things, and so it's a very kind of contentious or sore topic for the land, and like they basically lay claim to the land, the sea, and the sky. And so there's kind of like issues around that and things like that. So I think for the most part, they've tried to preserve what they've thought is like super important, but obviously like anything, kind of like the American Indians here, there's a lot of contentions around like what they think should be preserved and what shouldn't be preserved. So
Are they their own country, or are they still part of the British Empire?
New Zealand is its own country, but it's still part of the Commonwealth. Yeah, so you can still travel to New Zealand if you're a British citizen or vice versa. They have their own currency, but it still has the Queen depicted on it and stuff. So they're still part of the Commonwealth. But they kind of like act independently. Same with Australia. Yeah.
It's interesting how that works.
It very weird. Yeah, but you could definitely see a lot of the influence from the British side. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but yeah, they've done a good job of kind of like separating those boundaries instead of just being like completely integrated with Britain.
So talk about the wildlife you saw. What sort of wildlife was there?
Yeah, it's interesting because you think that because there is so much undeveloped land that you'd see a lot more wildlife, but actually you see a lot more wildlife here in the States than you do over there, and that's because you can go out and hunt whenever you want. The animals have grown accustomed to not just kind of roaming around, so you don't see wildlife much unless you go out into the bush and look for it. But they've got everything from like Captain Cook boar to red-tailed deer, a whole bunch of...
Captain Cook boar?
Yeah, so when Captain Cook discovered the island of New Zealand, he introduced a breed of boar there, and the boar went wild or whatever, and so there's a specific breed of boar called I think it's the Captain Cook boar, if I remember correctly, but yeah, so...
So it's an invasive species.
I believe it's considered invasive, yeah.
Man.
Yep.
So there's Captain Cook boar. What else is there?
Actually, one of the coolest things about New Zealand is there's no predators, except for there's a chicken hawk. And there's no spiders that bite except for the recluse and the whitetail. I take that back. The whitetail, and I can't remember I don't know if the recluse is the other one. But yeah, there's only 2 spiders that bite. Both of them are introduced from Australia, ironically. But there's no natural predators in New Zealand, which is why the kiwi bird is able to survive without having like wings or anything.
Oh, did you see a kiwi?
No, unless you're on a reserve or unless you're at a zoo, very rarely would you see a kiwi.
Man, I would think they would have like a national kiwi day where they bring the kiwi out like Groundhog
Day, yeah, kind of, yeah. No, I don't. This is another thing. Like, they're not very patriotic people either, so they're not like there's no. Like, they have Guy Fawkes Day, but it's not like 4th of July or anything like that. It's more just like a day to set off fireworks rather than to celebrate the country. Yeah, but...
Cool. So not too much wildlife because they've done a really good job of keeping the invasive species down. Now, Captain Cook, do you know how he ended up dying?
I do not.
Yeah, he went to Hawaii.
Oh, jeez.
And he was killed by the natives. In Hawaii, they killed him.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, karma.
gotta be careful with the tribe that you visit.
I guess they did not want his boar.
Yeah.
But there is wild pig in Hawaii, though. I don't know what their story is on that. But so in New Zealand, what was the restaurant scene like?
In terms of like quality of food, or? Well,
I guess what's the difference between there and here? I guess we drive down here, you're going to see like 50 fast food restaurants. They got, we got maybe Mexican, maybe this and that. Some restaurants are special and bougie, some are low budget. So like, what was the
biggest difference, the biggest noticeable difference is the portion sizes. So here portion sizes are much bigger. It's more about presentation over there than it is about portion size when it comes to meals. The other thing that's very noticeable, especially with the like fast food, is the amount of tailoring that they do. So for example, McDonald's, they don't have specific items on the menu that you find here because they don't suit the environment of the Kiwis over there. And so like the other thing is the meat, it tastes different. So all of it's grass-fed, naturally raised or non-factory raised meat. So I'm not sure how to describe it other than it tastes different.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand.
Yeah,
there's a huge difference between hormone injected.
Tastes nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. So what were the fast food restaurants there?
They have all the same options as here, except for they don't have Taco Bell.
Oh.
They only introduced Taco Bell, I think, in Auckland and Christchurch. I think they were piloting it in 2020 or 2019, if I remember correctly. There's no Mexican food, except for there's one Mexican restaurant chain called, I think, Cholando's, if I remember correctly. But they are owned by Turkish people, if I remember correctly, as well. So there's no actual authentic Mexican food, which is one of the things that I missed the most when I was living there, is authentic Mexican food. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for the most part, they have all the same fast food restaurants that we would have here. They have Domino's, they've got Pizza Hut, they've got McDonald's. I would say the one interesting thing here is I've always considered Burger King to be the worst of the two between Burger King and McDonald's here, whereas over there, Burger King is the better of the two between Burger King and McDonald's, personally, which I found kind of weird. But yeah, other than that, it's mostly the same except for like the items that you can buy.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, they're just tailored to the local. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's been 20 minutes, so I'll shut this stuff off. So just go ahead and talk about the local food. What did they eat that was unique and different?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the main one was fish and chips. Fish and chips. It kind of ruined me actually, because I cannot have fish and chips anymore, especially here, because all the fish here is always frozen, and you can definitely tell the difference between frozen fish and fresh fish. And they have this thing called cheesy wheezies, which is basically just fries, mayo, mayonnaise, ketchup, and cheese, which sounds kind of weird, but it's actually a pretty good combination.
Damn. So what about like a national dish? So like Captain Cook pork with
probably either. I'm not sure if it's actually the national dish or not, but probably like a quiche is like one of the most common dishes I've come across. Which a quiche is like a egg omelet kind of thing, but like a pie. I don't really know how to explain it. The other thing is a snapper. So the snapper fish. It's a native fish to New Zealand, so it's quite a common and popular fish to eat.
Yeah, so they're a maritime people, so I would assume there's more fish in their diet.
Yeah.
So they had snapper. They get any tuna? I don't know, maybe.
Not really. Monkfish, snapper, monkfish are probably the two most common ones, I would say.
Did you pick up an accent?
No, but I would say I there are a few words that I like to say, like keen, chur, sweet as, things like that.
Keen, chur. So how use those in a sentence?
So like, are you keen to go hang out later?
Okay.
Chur, bro.
Sure, bro. Oh, instead of sure, it's chur.
Oh, chur is like sweet or good or yeah, and then sweet as is like cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I always like to make fun of the sweet as thing, or I guess my mom always likes to make fun of the sweet as thing. She's like, sweet as what? Because they always just say sweet as, and I'm not sure where sweet as comes from, but yeah, sweet as is another one.
Like sweet ass?
No, as.
Yeah.
It does
like
sound like
bro.
sweet ass, yeah. Which is why I've hesitated to say it here, because I'm worried people might mistake me for saying sweet ass.
Well, you should introduce them to some culture, and if they throw a fit, say they're ignorant.
Yeah.
Man, so you didn't pick up an accent. However, was it difficult listening to them on certain things, like teachers and whatnot, trying to pay attention with the way they would?
Some words, yes, but for the most part, the adults are easy to understand. It's more the kids, because the kids talk super fast, and their accent is still kind of developing. So it's kind of like, yeah, the kids are definitely hard to understand. But yeah, for the most part, like, it's kind of like listening to like a Scottish person or something. You can make out most of what they say. Yeah, it's nothing too out there about
What
the
did they
accent.
do for sports?
Rugby.
Just
Rugby is
rugby?
the primary one. Yeah, rugby is the king of the game over there. I mean, All Blacks are obviously the like probably the big ticket other than Lord of the Rings for New Zealand. So rugby, they do some. They call it gridiron, which is American football. They do some gridiron, but rugby is the
Gridiron sounds better
yeah.
than American football.
Well, obviously, football is soccer, so
Yeah, we need
they
to
call it
drop
gridiron.
football together, go straight to gridiron.
yeah. I think it comes from the helmet mask thing or something.
Sounds better than football.
Yeah. Racing is another big thing over there. Drifting, because like skylines and stuff are completely legal over there, so the drifting scene is pretty big.
So drifting is like Tokyo, Yakuza stuff. Do they all pretend they're like Fast and Furious guys? And
I don't know if they pretend, but like my cousin has got I think he's sunk like 150,000 or something into his little drift car. Yeah.
oh yeah, people sink a lot of money into their toys that they play with. Yeah. So let's see here if the New Zealand Day, was there, well, you said it was like going back in time 10 years. What were their popular songs? Were they mirroring the US in a lot of ways, or what was the difference?
Hard to say. So, for example, I think the music for the most part was pretty up to date. But for things like movies, we would not have, like you guys here in the U.S. would have a movie release, and we wouldn't have it released in New Zealand until like 3 or 6 months later. So we would get movies later than other people. Yeah, but for the most part, music's pretty much the same. Obviously, the kind of the genre of music they listen to differs than probably what most people listen to here. But yeah, for the most part, that kind of stuff is the same. Television, I can't really comment on television that much because I'm not personally a person who watches television that much. But I would say that like it reminds me of like watching television here before we went to digital, like when you only had 3 channels pretty much. That's kind of like New Zealand. They have more channels than just 3 channels, but like channel 1 is like the primary news channel, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. They keep it simpler.
Yeah.
So you ended up not getting a face tattoo.
Nope. Mamoku. Nope.
No mamuku for you.
Nope.
Shows how culturally intolerant you are.
I
You should be
don't
ashamed for
actually
not
think
having a face tattoo.
I'm not actually sure if guys are allowed to get the mamoku or not. I think it's only women.
Oh, I didn't
think.
know. I thought to me.
Don't quote me on that. I think.
See how ignorant I am. To me, I thought they're all tatted out, face tatted Polynesian people.
Again, I think, but all I know is that the mamoku is like supposed to be like a story, a representation of like your life or something. Yeah.
Yeah, here it would say you can't get a job.
Unfortunately, even over in New Zealand, you know, people struggle with. Well, I mean, it's kind of like piercings, right? It's not more about you as the individual. It's more about representing the business, and you always want to represent the business in the best possible way. And so, some people might find tattoos not necessarily the best representation. So, it's never a personal thing. It's more of like, are you representing me the best? Yeah, but it happens in New Zealand too. Like there's issues where people won't get hired because of their moku.
Is there a big welfare state?
Yes and no. So it's called WINS. I think it's called Work and Income New Zealand, if I remember correctly. WINS. There is quite a big welfare system. Is actually one of the things that I thought New Zealand did quite well was their social, like their healthcare system is pretty old, pretty outdated. But the most I ever paid for like prescriptions was $5, and that's like a really expensive prescription. Never had a primary doctor, and I think the most my urgent care visits ever cost me were $45 out of pocket. No insurance, nothing. Just walked in, got checked, $45. That was it. So that's definitely one thing that they're doing quite well. Yeah. The other thing is their tax, which I wish that the U.S. adopted or used as a reference for our tax system here, because over there you don't have to do taxes at all. Your taxes are automatically taken out of your paycheck, and then everything's just done for you. You don't have to worry about, do you owe money to the government? Does the government owe money to you? It's just a 15% flat PAYE tax or whatever it's called.
Oh, there's no sales tax?
Not that I can remember.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess death and taxes, it's unavoidable.
Oh, sorry, GST. Nope, I lied. GST. On some things, there's GST, which I think GST is also 15%.
So, was there people in your high school with face tattoos?
I think there was one or two people, if I remember correctly.
So not too many.
No. I may be wrong on that, because I think you might have to be a certain age, or it might be like a coming of age thing. So either they... trying to think back, because so to give you a reference, here my school had 2,300 kids. Over there my school had 700 kids, so very drastic shrink, but not that I can remember. And there's also a lot of international kids too, so yeah. I think there might have been maybe one kid, if there was. Yeah. Did
you go to where Lord of the Rings was filmed?
I drove past Matamata. I didn't get to see Matamata. We stopped in Matamata on our way up to Auckland for a school trip, but no, I have not been to see Hobbiton.
I'm surprised they haven't renamed the town the Shire.
I know. They also took down Helm's Deep, which is kind of a thing, but yeah, I wish I saw Helm's Deep, but yeah, apparently they deconstructed that.
So talk about the ocean. What was that like? Were the beaches like tropical and cool, or?
Yeah. Beaches are nice and sandy. Don't really know how to describe a beach other than some nice beach. Nice and clean. Not very like rocky. Yeah, a lot of fishing and stuff. You see a lot of people with these massive long poles doing like long trawls.
Were there seabirds and seagulls?
Yep. There's actually, seagulls used to entertain me. So during the summertime, my stepfamily owned an orchard in Whakatane, and my uncle would load me up with a trailer full of whatever for the day. Like, so watermelon was one time that I sold, corn another, and I would sit there and watch seagulls attack each other, fight each other in the parking lot as I was sitting there selling like fruit or whatever on the side of the road. So
interesting. So like a family that took you guys in as like friends, and you worked for them.
No. That's my step family. It's my stepdad's family.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So, and this was in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's different. They had an orchard.
Yeah.
Cool.
Started from nothing.
Was he a native New Zealander?
No. So my stepdad's dad is from Switzerland, and he moved over when he married my stepdad's mom and brought her whole family over. They were pretty poor, and so they started an orchard from literally nothing, built it up, and yeah.
So what was the orchard? What were they growing?
All sorts of things. Apples, tangelos, peas, grapes, all sorts of stuff. Strawberries. Yeah. And then they had a little like front shop that they would sell the produce in, and then they would like also sell to other locals and stuff like that. So yeah,
that's cool.
Quite a large operation.
The New Zealand dream: show up as an immigrant and get an orchard.
Pretty much.
So cool. That's a lot of good life experience you've had.
For sure.
So now talk about we'll go back to the New World. Even though, is New Zealand the New World? I'm pretty sure they'd be the New World too.
Probably.
Yeah, Europe's the old world.
The new world.
Yeah. So talk about your world in tech and how you got started in that.
Yeah. So I would say if we're talking about the beginning of my interest in tech, this probably starts all the way back when I was a young, little tiny kid, back when the Nintendo 64 was the cream of the crop system.
Oh, yeah.
And Windows 98 was the operating system. Yeah, my interest developed probably like most people out of video games. Played GoldenEye, 007 GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, Diddy Kong Racing, all those fun stuff. Legoland on the computer. And ever since then, I've always wanted to learn how to make games. And at the time, I didn't know it was called programming. At the time, the internet was still pretty relatively new. There was no YouTube. There was no like resources like there is now. And so I actually wrote to Bill Gates to ask him what should I do to write programs.
Aww.
And his team responded with like a little
that's so
packet
sweet.
of information. But I'm really disappointed in my brother because back in 2002 or 3, my brother was really into RuneScape, and he wanted to learn programming so that he could run and maintain his own private server. And he bought a Java for Dummies book back in like 05 or 04 or something, and he was going to learn Java so that he could do this private server. And I laugh every time I think about it because if he had just stuck with it, even just a little tiny bit, he would have been such a better programmer than I am now, like infinitely better. But yeah, ever since the Nintendo 64, Windows 98, I've always been interested to create things. I've always seen programming as like a way to kind of like harness reality in a way, kind of like how math is our description of reality. For me, programming is our way to manifest those descriptions into a real thing. And so it wasn't until 2015 when I started my bachelor degree that I actually started learning programming. I've always kind of run into that barrier to entry for programming. And then 2015, I applied to Nelson Marble Institute of Technology to do my bachelor. Got accepted on a special application because I didn't have you have to have a certain amount of qualifications, basically, kind of like here for a 4-year college, but it's called like NCAA qualifications over there. And because I did my last year of high school there, I had no credits because the education systems are obviously so different. So I had to get my entire accreditation in 1 year, which you have to do like certain subjects and stuff. So I didn't get my accreditation, so I had to do a special entry for that, but got my Bachelor of IT through there. And I think the biggest thing that's been a benefit from NMIT was actually the people. So I met this guy named Sam who had been programming for I think like 8 or 9 years prior to studying, but he just wanted to get the piece of paper so I could get hired pretty easily.
Now, where was this school at? What state?
Nelson. So top of the South Island.
Top of the southbound?
South Island.
Oh, this is still in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nelson,
all
Zeland.
right. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
So did my Bachelor of IT 2016 to 2019, and most of what I know is because of Sam and the guys that I studied with, not necessarily. Like NMIT taught me like the basics of like networking, database, software development, but the things that I have kind of like explored into, like Docker, like the cybersecurity stuff with the honeypots, all that's stuff that me and Sam and the other guys have kind of like gone off and done on our own outside of NMIT. One thing I found that I didn't like NMIT did was they didn't really encourage people to try out things or to go off on their own and to explore things. Kids would only do things if they were relevant or related to the current task or the current assignment. Everything was taught in C#, so Visual Basic is what you'd learn in first year, and then they transitioned to C#. And I'd say probably about 95% of the people in my class never went outside of C#, never did anything outside of C#. The only people that did was like my little group of people that we studied with. One of them was because he only ever used JavaScript, so Jonathan only wrote JavaScript, so he didn't like C# anyway. But all the other guys, we were all interested in other things and figuring out stuff. And that was really around the time AI kind of took off because of AlphaGo. So Python, I realized, was the language that I wanted to kind of invest into initially, and then ran into some pitfalls with Python around concurrency, and so that's why I transitioned to Golang. And yeah.
Golang.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What's Golang?
So Golang is the language that came out of Google. It was created by the same guy who created C, Ken Thompson. It's also created by Rob Pike, who is one of the architects of Unicode, or I think Unicode or UTF-8 or something. And then Robert Griesmer. So basically, Google has Google-sized issues. One of them being dealing with large amounts of data. And so they developed a language called Golang, which they open sourced in 2009. So it's probably one of the most recent languages developed. And basically it is a really nice enterprise level language that is very low barrier compared to other languages and is very, very efficient at what it does. Most of cloud enterprise applications are written in Golang. Things like Kubernetes, Docker, anything cloud application is pretty much being written in Go right now. Rust is the other kind of like hot language at the moment, but I think the biggest issue with Rust is the learning curve. So like with anything, obviously, a learning curve is always one of the factors in whether or not you adopt something. And so for me, it's not necessarily how easy is it for me to learn, how easy is it for somebody else to learn? Because I'm not always going to be maintaining this. So how is it for somebody else to come and take this up? And so for me, Go is such a easier, low barrier to entry language than something like Rust, which has a whole bunch of like headaches and stuff that you run into. So it's just a nice language. Has a lot of really nice built-in standard library packages. You can do a full REST API with the standard library. It's got, you can like send emails with the standard library and stuff like that. So unlike Python, you don't have to rely on a lot of third-party packages, which is what I like about it. And it's also a compiled language, so you can compile a static binary on your computer and then transfer the binary to another computer without it having to install Golang, and it can just run it. So it's a very nice little thing.
It's cool. I didn't realize that Go was short for Golang.
Yeah.
You just taught me something. I learn a little bits every day, man. There's so much to know. So what have you been using Golang for primarily?
My kind of long-term project has been a web crawler. So when I first got into programming, AI was kind of like my main drive. And I realized early on that data is kind of like the big moat for AI. And so I thought for a while and I realized that where's the best place to get data? The internet. How's the best way to get data from the internet? And I ended up coming across what web search engines use, which is web crawling. And so web crawling is kind of like the longest running project that I've been maintaining. So I like to do web crawling is pretty much like my favorite thing to do. I like to go collect data on the internet. But REST APIs is a thing that I typically am building. At the moment, I'm currently building a pipeline to process my library and to be able to make my library accessible to other people, because I've got a few hundred books and I've only read about 10% of them, and I probably won't get through all of them in my lifetime, and so I'd rather share them with other people. And so that's kind of one of the small projects that I'm working on at the moment, is having like a digital library I can take around with me and let people kind of check out my books and read them.
Like YouTube?
Well, physical books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. It's a lot to unpack. So you are creating a web crawler, so you're like creating a search engine-ish.
The original project, which is still in the back burners, is to create a open source alternative to search engines.
Okay.
But it's, I have created the reverse index portion of it. The web crawling portion is sort of okay, but it only does about 3,000 or 5,000 links a second, so it's pretty slow. So I gotta improve that a bit more. But eventually, the long-term goal is to create a search engine that anybody can use and extend and modify to their heart's content.
Cool. So you're just trying to just build a search engine and see if it'll compete or just work. Yep. I feel you. That's what I'm doing with the malware detector. I don't know. Well, first off, if somebody has not already done what I'm trying to do, shame. Like, I'm pretty sure they've automated, shame on them, because this is, but, so So you're using Go. Your main focus at your work is gaming.
No.
No, okay, I'm wrong.
No. So at the moment, I have a startup which does professional in-business advertising. So we do 15-second video advertisements played on local business television screens to help promote and expose other local businesses. So that's my current venture. And then the job that I'm working for is a company that's looking to break into the North America market, which is an integration for Salesforce.
Oh, okay. So you're running shorts, like YouTube Shorts.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like
you can pretty much
15-second
you can pretty
ads.
much think about it as YouTube Shorts.
Okay, so you're in. So
But
you,
in between that, we do filler as well.
interesting. So you're taking. You've created a digital marketing.
Yep.
With your startup. Okay, cool.
Kind of. We're, the way I like to think about it is we are creating a new advertising channel. So we're extending the advertising industry by opening up a new channel form, in being that businesses have television screens often now, but they don't play content on them except for like maybe the news or something. Now we're providing a way that not only can the businesses expose other businesses, but we'd hopefully like to provide a way for the businesses to monetize as well. Be able to make some recurring revenue off of their screen rather than just having it be a money sink.
So what made you start in this industry, digital marketing?
Well,
Video marketing, I guess.
my previous job was in electric monitoring, so it's kind of in a similar vein in that it deals with video. So I have sort of a previous stuff with it, but mainly the reason why I started it was because for me, education is one of the best assets anybody can ever have. And so I wanted to provide something which not only could provide a form of education, but could also be a value add in terms of, brand awareness or, sales increase or whatever like that. So for me, the biggest reason was I wanted something that I could apply the skills that I have been building to things that I see as a big gap in the market. And one of the gaps that I saw in the market was there was a bunch of businesses that had TVs that were either not playing anything or they were playing the news and most people weren't looking at them. And so I wanted to replace it with something that people would actually sit there and enjoy. So when you're sitting there waiting in the emergency room and you're, sitting there for hours, I don't want to be watching the news. I want to be as de-stressed as possible. And so for me, having something that plays family-friendly content such as historical figures, did you knows, jokes, quotes, and then some advertisements in between is a good way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely check out government contracts because they're always needing. All these departments need digital marketers. They have digital marketing contracts.
We have talked to the U.S. Army, but I don't think we followed up. I can't remember what came of that, but yeah, it's one of the options that we're looking at. Yeah.
Cool. So what do you use for video editing software?
FFmpeg.
Yep. Yeah, I use DaVinci. It's
free. I don't. I just use the. So DaVinci probably uses FFmpeg underlying. I just use the command line FFmpeg.
Okay. Cool. So, how do you find? When did you start it? I'm sure you already answered, but
we officially started October of 22, 23. I think it's been a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're still on the path to trying to get profitable. The thing that we're finding the hardest is going up against existing online advertising and trying to compete against that. So we're not trying to compete against like Google Analytics. Like Google Analytics does a good job. We're not trying to get into the space of like breaking down the demographics and stuff like that. What we're trying to do is just say, for a cost-effective amount a month, we're going to put you across 10 screens, and we're going to give you a unique dynamic QR code to help track the measurability of it. But our goal is not to say we're going to get you 10 scans a month. Our goal is to say, okay, we're currently sitting at maybe 5 scans a month. How can we increase that to 10? Or how can we increase, the exposure? Or how can we help increase the business overall? We're not really trying to get away from like the focus on what are my metrics, which obviously, you want to make sure that what you're paying for is working. So that's one of the biggest issues that we're trying to kind of resolve at the moment, is how do we portray that value and that return on investment without having those really fine-grained metrics, that most people expect when they think about advertising.
Yeah, I've thought long and hard on that, and I'll tell you the same answer that everybody else asks me. Like, how do I prove metrics? Like, my buddy Jeremy, Junk Mail Jeremy, who was on here with the Y Shopper, he was like, how do I prove metrics that like people's paper ads are doing anything? Like, I don't know whether or not they got a sale. I can't track sales. I can't track leads, and that's not your job. Attribution
is a whole nother industry.
Yeah. What I tell them, how I measure any sort of marketing campaign, is by domain authority. What was it before? What was it after? That's provable. It's measurable. You can prove it on 2 different platforms, and that's what it all boils down to. And just educating people on what domain authority is, and how it's a valuation of your digital real estate, and how your backlinks can be worth more money given your domain authority.
That's a good way to put it.
That's all I do now. I just and I just keep them focused on that metric, because that's provable and realistic, and over time, they'll see something.
For sure.
Yeah. That's and I told Jeremy too, I was like, dude, you can go through every single one of your customers and you can track that metric for them, because they didn't know about it before. And you can say, look, this was before and this is after. Was there a change? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. But if there is a change, cool. Well, you can show that. You can be associated with that success. Yeah. Because you tracked it to begin with.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is, even if you don't see any sort of measurable traction, then you can say, okay, well, if we're not seeing traction now, here's what we're going to plan to do in order to increase that traction or whatever. Yeah, I would definitely agree. Domain authority is probably a good metric to go by.
Yeah, I think it is. It's the only one I can think of. When I was talking to Nathan, the last guy, he was saying that he pays for LinkedIn ads. He pays $50. And he says with that $50, he generally gets 2 qualified leads. I'm like, that's fucking good. You're spending $50 and you're getting 2 qualified leads. That's really good.
Especially if his customer value is more than $50.
Yeah. And he's just doing like cloud, moving people's stuff to the cloud and stuff, and Azure.
Well, the way that we're currently tracking the attribution is the dynamic QR code. So I've made a short URL system which collects custom information aside from like the user agent. But the problem is, we're still very into the beginnings of QR codes. QR codes have not been popular until very recently, and I don't know if you know about the Android thing, but the whole reason why QR codes are now all of a sudden popping up everywhere is because Android never natively supported scanning them through their camera app.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought it was because there was a cybersecurity vulnerability and you shouldn't scan QR codes.
Well, there's that, which is what people are running into now. But nope, before, I'm pretty sure it was COVID which caused Android to finally implement it. But before then, you had to download a QR code scanning app, and that was always a barrier that nobody would do. Yeah. And so QR codes never took off. But since COVID, I'm pretty sure COVID was the kind of like straw on the camel's back, and now that's why you see QR codes everywhere, because both phones now support scanning natively. So, dynamic QR codes is the one way that we have to measure how effective is the advertisement. And I would like to eventually get to the point where I can say, okay, they scanned your ad, and then here's what they did once they got to your site through like a tracking pixel or something like that, but haven't implemented that.
Yeah, who do you have your website hosted through?
WordPress.
Yeah. Which I think is the better option than Squarespace.
Yeah, well, web hosting is dime a dozen, but our website is built in WordPress, and so it's just hosted through WordPress. And
you can deploy certain machine learning models to WordPress, and you cannot do that on Squarespace, so just know that, people. I have to eat that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm
That's
eating that.
interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was pissed. I was like, really? I'm paying this much money for Squarespace?
That's surprising that they haven't caught up in that space.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I can do like small code injection into headers and shit on the website, but I can't do anything as it relates to API. Like WordPress is cool. WordPress has got it. And when I make a new one, I'll probably do WordPress. But man, I lost my train of thought. So you are using WordPress, and the clients, I guess you could always get access to their traffic if you ask them to webmaster their thing, and then you can see it.
Yep. Basically what we do is we ask them for like a snapshot or what their current average weekly traffic or monthly traffic is, and then we just use that as a baseline.
Dude, it seems like you know a lot more about SEO inherently than a lot of these SEO guys. Believe me, I've had some charlatans that I've met.
I hate web development, so I do know a few things about SEO, but web development, front end is not my domain. I hate front end. I'm not a aesthetic person. I'm a very functional person, so back end is my forte. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when I first started, I was working, and I would just put my headphones in, go to work on the production floor when I was going to school and just learning everything. And I would just listen to hours every day of podcasts, whether it's Joe Rogan, or I'd listen to financial podcasts. I'd listen to Jim Cramer and the Motley Fool Money, and just because it's tough, but I know they're going to be in my ear and I'm going to be doing something, but every once in a while I pick up on stuff and then I start learning things. I'm like, oh shit. And then I have these hallelujah moments. But then I learned SEO, and I just downloaded a few books, listened to them, listened to numerous podcasts in the space, and I started to get a really solid picture as to how it worked. And then as I learned more about machine learning, it really clicked. I'm like, oh, fuck. It's a series of machine learning models that are
curating.
Doing these things. And so once I figured it out, I'm like, oh, cool. So my SEO it's a little bit different, but I have a network now. It's more of a network than it is an actual production thing. I think the only thing I produce show-wise is the Pacemaker Bodybuilders channel, and I've quit doing it for jiu-jitsu, but now I just do now I just disseminate scraps. I don't even make the videos. Scott makes those videos, and he just sends them to me. And yeah, but when I post, like, let's say like this podcast, so I'll post it to YouTube, and then I'll take the link and I'll post it to about 20 different Facebook groups, and then about 30 different LinkedIn groups, and then I post it to all sorts of places online, like BK, Russian sites. I post it to like any place in most places where if you hit the share button on YouTube and it gives you an option, if I can go to it short of a language barrier, I'm going to post there.
Smart.
Yeah. So I'm posting on at least 50 different platforms outside of it. So when it works, and to top that off, I send the link to the link clickers.
Nice.
So I pay kids and adults $10 a month to click the links on the videos when I send them out at 9 p.m. And I learned about 9 p.m. from big data, from mining that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I send the links out, and when the kids click the links, if they fucking click the links, sometimes they're lazy. But when people click the links and they leave a comment, or they leave an emojicon in the comment, and then they like the video and they like their own comment and they share it to one of the posts, and they share it to one of their social medias, that tricks the server, because the server's like, oh shit, I'm getting a bunch of page requests for this specific page. all within the hour. This must be a big event, so I'm going to put it in front of more sample population to study. Mm-hmm. In theory, that's how, and sometimes it works. Mm-hmm. If the video match search intent to begin with. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it doesn't, like the long form stuff, that doesn't trend. That is not going to get like the shorts, dude. The shorts fucking get thousands
especially
of views,
right
man.
Now. Yeah.
Dude,
attention spans are being destroyed.
Yeah, well, the month of January, when Danny was wanting to film some more, his channel pulled over 100,000 in a fucking month. 100,000 views.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a big subscriber base, but doing this is what's really driving the views up, though, and it's increasing the domain authority too. So his channel and all these other channels are backlinked to mine, Blooming Biz Media Network, and I'm really happy. I'll brag about it. I'm happy that I took it from a 0 to 12 in a year.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, my domain authority 0
That's
to 12.
awesome.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
that's hard work. I mean, like, I think the worst thing is there's no way to really effectively track how you're going, because there's no like number out there that you can look, like there's no FICO score that you can say, oh, here's how I'm doing with my SEO. It's you basically have to, like you said, guess and see if it works. Yeah.
And that's why I love the domain authority. I go to Moz or Ahrefs because they're free backlink checkers.
Nice.
And they give you you just type in the domain and it'll give you the score and all the backlinks that are going to it. But yeah, building backlinks and understanding who has a wealthy website. And a wealthy website to me is one with really high domain authority. So, for example, the Spokesman Review has a domain authority of 85, which is really freaking good.
Yeah.
For a while, they're the highest ranked media outlet in the highest ranked newspaper in the nation, and they were bragging about that when I went to their thing. And
the Spokesman Review.
Yeah, Spokesman Review. They've survived.
That's crazy.
They've survived. So, like the New York Times and all those other times in those bigger cities.
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, they went to shit, and a lot of them gave up. A lot of them gave up paper distribution, and Spokesman Reviews just kept going and doing it. And it's a really good story. But the bottom line is, right now, they have a high schooler writing their tech articles. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
For a reason, or because they can't find...
They probably can't find one. So this is my next big pull for SEO. You should probably consider doing it too. I already got one insider who's the cybersecurity guy for the Spokesman, and he's been... But anyway, yeah, I want to write some articles. You should write some articles. Be like, hey, I'll write a guest article on tech, so you don't have to have a high schooler do it. And then, you write your article and be like, article written by Daniel. Check him out at this link here. And then you get a fat backlink.
True.
Yeah, that's going to really jack up your domain authority. And if you write the article for them, blog for them, you get to put in all the keywords. As long as you don't make it look like...
Too obvious.
Yeah, too obvious. Like, this is an advertisement. Or you could just... It could be any random shit that's in the news. Just kind of... Oh, if you want to learn more, check it out here.
Well, it's kind of funny. This is reminding me of the... there's a topic of conversation going on right now around, like, streaming sites, around, like, botting. And how to effectively track and measure the amount of botting. And the thing with Twitch at the moment is, because you can embed a Twitch stream, what's happening is there are some websites with high domain authority who are embedding streams onto their site. So they're boosting people's viewerships by having a high domain authority site that they're embedding these live streams on it. So you've got people who are like boosting their viewerships by these embeddings, which is hilarious.
That's fucking genius, man.
It's hilarious.
Huh.
No, it's kind of like if you think about like the front page of Twitch, that's embedding a stream in the front page. So it's kind of like that, but doing it on like another site that has as high traffic as Twitch. So it's kind of funny to think about, like, the the relation there.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you mentioned the page server. I'm sorry, not the page, the crawler, and how it crawls out and goes back. Now, here's a fun fact. Did you know that there is a massive war, a cyber war of crawlers right now going on? It's been going on for years. So, like, Google's...
Is this related to robots.txt file?
It might be related to Roblox.txt, but I don't think so.
The whole Google monopoly?
Well, Google is part of it, and they do this. So Google and Yahoo and Bing, well, not Yahoo, I think they're out of the fight. I think it's just like Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo. What they do is when their crawlers crawl a site, they change the code in it somewhere. They change the code on the website so that the other crawlers from...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like malware. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
you got to fight for your territory, man. It's your turf.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the robots.txt. So, like, there's supposed to be this mechanism, which is supposed to be this, like, you know, how you like, specify how you want crawlers to interact with their website, robots.txt. But the problem with that is, me as an individual developer, I have to abide by that robots.txt. Google does not. Google does not have to care at all about robots.txt. Google, like, if you want to be discovered on the internet, you want Google to search you. And so the problem is, like, why should I have to implement all this functionality to adhere to this robot.txt when I'm up against Google, who doesn't, like, you know, and Bing, I don't really know if they're in a similar situation. DuckDuckGo is just a rehash of Bing, but yeah, it's like, it's crazy to think about it's like the browser wars. Like, people don't even realize there's only two browsers. There's no choice of browser anymore. Like, Internet Explorer doesn't exist anymore. There's no, like, Opera's not really that much of an option, and
Safari's a joke.
All of them are built on Chromium, so like, Firefox is your only other option, and Firefox is like yeah, so it's kind of like the whole soda thing, where you realize once you look into things how little of choice you actually have, and how, like, monstrously deep some of these rabbit holes can go. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Shit,
dude. So what is so right now your business model is to build people videos or some sort of a video stream that they can play in their stores or on TVs, so the customers can have exposure to ads. Cool. So how do you go about finding customers?
At the moment, it's just more like word of mouth. But we found that hasn't, like, there's a lot of lead time for our acquisition, or for our customer acquisitions in that way. So we've pivoted to looking at workspaces, and then leveraging workspaces and their members, existing members, as a way to kind of like propel the initial prospects, making the acquisition of initial prospects a lot easier, making it to be profitable a lot faster. So acquisition of customers has been pretty difficult. Basically, like, attending events, attending Chamber of Commerce breakfasts and things like that. But for the most part, it's just been attending events like ribbon cuttings and stuff like that from chambers.
No shit.
Yeah,
I've thought about going to the like the Spokane Valley Chamber.
Chambers of Commerce are highly recommend. Yep.
Okay, so when do they get to? I thought you have to, like, be a member.
You do have to pay a membership.
Are you a member?
Yeah, we're a member. So I think it's like $100 or $200 a year or something for membership.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I think they do breakfast every week or every other week or something like that. And then just.
So is it worth it?
I would say.
Well, you recommend it. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't know.
I would say it's definitely more worth it than trying to go door knocking. It's definitely a lot easier, like, because The thing is you are making a connection with a entity that already has existing connections and relationships with businesses. So you're not having to go out there and prove your,
credibility.
Prove your credibility. You're basically partnering with somebody who's credible. Yeah, and then basically you're just attending events and introducing yourself and saying what you do, and from there you just invite people to coffees or whatever.
Okay, so my biggest fear is if I paid to network, and I've done that before in jiu-jitsu.
And nothing happens. Yep.
Because that's what jiu-jitsu is.
We've had instances like that too. And we don't do like booths anymore. We found that booths aren't very, particularly for our business, booths aren't very worth it. They don't give us a good return for the amount that the booth costs. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. You probably don't get a good So what? But you pay like $200 a year, and okay, this is my biggest fear. If I was to pay money to go to a networking group, I would want to make sure that it's not just a bunch of door-to-door salesmen, because that's
you don't want to just get all the real estate agents.
Oh yeah, door-to-door salesmen.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So that's, I'd want to liaise with like city people who have access to stuff and whatnot. So,
well, the nice thing is you don't even have to attend the events to do that. So you can just talk directly. So like we've had recommendations directly to other members through the chamber, and they just introduce us, and then that was it. We just went from there. Okay,
cool. So like is there like some kumbaya when everybody comes together at the chamber, or is it just the breakfasts?
I'm sure they have other events. Like they have like lunch and learns where one member will come and like share what they do and answer questions and stuff. But for the most part, they do like breakfasts, the ribbon cuttings, things like that. But if you're wanting to just like get directly connected with somebody, like if you know somebody who's a member that you want to get directly connected with, you can just say, hey, I'd like to get in touch with this member. Who do I talk to? And more than likely they'll help you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So they probably do have a member list. I'll just go to and
for sure
check it out.
Yep.
Another cool data stream that I got into is called Data Axle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've messed with it.
I've heard of it. I have not used it myself.
It's great. It's free.
Yeah.
And you can get it. I have it pulled up on a tab always, but you can get it through just sign up through Spokane Library, and it gives you access to Data Axle.
That's probably where I've heard it from.
Yeah.
Start us we can.
Yeah, well, it's cool. I learned it's passed my radar a few times, and now that I've been using it, it's great. But it's a great thing that queries and gives you outputs of all this information, such as like business credit, how much. Like I was going through Indaba Coffee, I'm like, oh damn, I'm looking at how much each one of his stores makes. Bobby Enslow.
Yep.
I'm like, oh shit, because that's public. It's surprising.
Yep.
What is public information?
It's actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, but it's like to me, Data Axle's like a really, really high speed phone book, right? That's how I think of it. So it's able to give you so many different attributes, and it just gives you the output, and then you can take that and make a CSV file, and then mine through it if you want, make predictions or whatever you think you can do with it. Or if anything, you use it as a list for leads if you wanted to start emailing.
Prospect.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. But but now I'm just all about the government contracts and trying to get those. So hopefully we'll have Ernesto on the podcast. I got to send him information as to like the specifics, but yeah, that's really cool to try to get the government contracts. Those are a lot sexier. But talk about your time in cybersecurity. What prompted your interest in that?
Yeah. So I actually took cybersecurity as one of the classes. So I took cybersecurity, I think 602, and in that basically we learn everything from public key infrastructure to Caesar ciphers, things like that. And I've always been interested. So in kind of a side channel to my interest in AI, I've always been interested in malware. I've always been interested in like hacking and stuff like that. Particularly, I'm interested in like the malicious applications of AI. But that cybersecurity course or class really kind of opened my eyes to what is considered cybersecurity and like what you can do in cybersecurity. And it's actually it's probably my oldest program that I've been writing and maintaining. Is I have a little password. It's not a password manager. I guess I call it a password list manager because I hate LastPass. I think that LastPass is great, but I think the problem is you're locking a kingdom behind a single set of keys. And so if somebody gets that master password, then you basically give them access to every password you've ever made. So my thought was, what if I could create something where the password only exists when you go to retrieve it? So my idea was to combine hashing with Caesar cipher to basically create these 3 unique inputs which always generate a deterministic hash. So the idea being you would give a plain text, you'd give it a number of rotations, and you'd give it a seed. And then from that, you would generate a hash, and you'd use the hash as a password rather than the plain text. And so the idea being that you would increase your security through obscurity. And so that was kind of like the first introduction to cybersecurity. And ever since then, I've been really interested in things like cyber attacks, like the 2016 Dian cyber attack and the Stuxnet, Iran nuclear program cyber attacks, stuff like that. So ever since then, it's been one of the topics in IT that I've been interested in and kind of following. Probably one of my favorite cybersecurity stories is the Krebs on security when he got like attacked with like a 1.5 terabyte or 1 terabyte a second DDoS.
Damn.
It's like the largest DDoS on record or something. It was awesome. Yeah. So, and then ever since then, the honeypot's probably the only product that I've really kind of played around with in cybersecurity, other than the password program. But yeah, so security, I think, is something that everybody should always have in the back of their mind. I think that kind of like being a business, having a business kind of mindset, I think everybody should have a security kind of mindset. Think about, if I'm making something, what is some way that I could abuse it when I'm building it? And then that way I can build against that as I'm building it. Yeah. That's
cool. That's really, that's a lot of talent. You're able to create your obscure password creator through the hashing, which is stuff I don't know how to do. I'm just a data scientist. I don't know. I think I'm a grass is always greener on the other side guy. Like, absolutely. I think that hacking is cooler than AI because I know the capabilities of AI and it's not that impressive. But so one thing that I want to do, and I think, and I've been spitballing it with some people, and the thing is, Walmart's already doing it, so this is nothing new, but I want to do it, is scrape as much customer data. So like if you were to make something for a business, like a coffee shop, and it says, yeah, people are in your coffee shop and they're using the Wi-Fi. And then Casey, he said, you have to get them to click an agree thing. Like, okay, whatever. To agree to use it. So we get them to click to agree to use it. And then we scrape all their fucking data, which you can do. And then mine through it and find insights for the business.
So you mean just turn every business into a data mining operation?
Yeah, that's what Walmart does. That's what all the big box stores do. And I was showing Casey that. I was like, look, dude. He's like, they don't do that. I'm like, right here. Bam, bam. I'm like, right here. They said they're taking it from devices in your home.
They sure do.
They don't even care. They're trying to get everything. Yep. So, and that's the thing. Like, this is a thing businesses can do. This is a product that I want to see people do more of, because I'm a data scientist. So it's like, if other people can get the data for me and I don't have to.
Yeah.
That's great. But data aggregation. I think of all the things that, well, talk about web scraping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk about your time in web scraping. And
Yeah, so actually the first thing I came across when I first started programming was web scraping. I didn't realize there was really a difference between web scraping and web crawling. So web scraping was the first thing I actually ever implemented, which was a beautiful soup scraper that just, I think, scraped a Wikipedia page or something like that. But then I took that little project and then I started scraping the cryptocurrency data from places like CoinMarketCap and stuff. And so I've actually, I pulled out my old hard drive and I've been looking through my old files and I've got some old logs from I think it's like 2018 or 2019 when Bitcoin was still 6,000. Mm-hmm. So it's funny to look back at and Ethereum was only like $400 or something. Yeah. It's funny to see like looking back, but yeah. So, web scraping primarily initially it was for cryptocurrency historical data. Then I started I made a little scraper for like Yahoo Finance to get a couple stock information. Haven't really done much web scraping recently, but yeah, I think the majority of what I've done in web scraping has been scraping the cryptocurrency historical data.
seems like that would be a much more lucrative business model than the video marketing.
Well, I was originally going to do something with it, but I didn't think that it was going to be that, like, I didn't really know what to do with it or how to monetize it, so I didn't end up doing anything with it. But I originally was using it to create a program to create basically like a system which you could give it a REST API URL and it would periodically scrape from that REST API. And so that was kind of the idea behind it. I called it a data mining fleet, where you would give it an endpoint and it would go and mine that endpoint for as long as you want, however often you wanted.
Yes, that's good. That's very valuable. That's what companies want. That's worth way more than digital marketing. I didn't realize this because when I first started off, around the same time you did last year, October last year, I started. And when I first started Blooming Biz Media, I'm like, well, at first it started off Blooming Biz Analytica because I was like, well, I'll be a marketing intelligence company. So people will come to me for their intelligence on marketing. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting high on shorts. Dude, I was getting high as fuck on social media. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, like subscribers. Give me fucking more. Give me more.
Instant like, hit dopamine.
Yeah, and then I was like, man, I'm a fucking junkie. I'm spending too much time trying to get high on views. It's like, oh, 5,000 views. That ain't shit. 21,000 views. Yeah, that's better. That's better. And it's like shit. But over time, though, I realized it's cool doing that. And it's a lot of fun. I like playing with YouTube. It's my favorite video game, hands down. What I realized, though, talking to more businesses, they need people who can just get them data. They need people who can scrape data, that can look at the data and be like, what the hell is this? What am I looking at? How do I get data on this? Yeah, so you might find that will be the same outlet given your skill set. And the more you talk about your skill set to other business owners, they'll pick up on that and be like, scraping, web scraping? It's surprising how many people know that, even baby boomers. Like, I'll meet at networking events. They're like, can you do web scraping? I'm like, yeah, I have to. I'm really good at it. You have to be. Like, oh, I could do that. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. But you'll find that people, certain adults, business owners, really love the data. Mm-hmm. They really like it and they get excited to talk about data. And I never thought I would get excited to talk about it.
Really?
Oh no! Yeah. When I first got out of the Marines, I was a gunfighter.
Oh, fair.
Straight careerist gunfighter. That's all I did. I was just a door kicking, grenade throwing, room clearing gunfighter and infantry. And I got out, and I'm like, I want to be a guy who creates AI. So I just kept Googling, like, what's the name of a guy who creates AI? And it kept saying data scientist. I'm like, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. Little did I know. Fucking statistics, dude. Getting stuck with the knife of statistics. If you got a good statistics teacher, it's easy. If you don't, which I did not, it's tough. It's tough.
So one thing I hated about the education system here was that you didn't get the opportunity to do stats or calculus until like the last 2 years of high school or the last year of high school. So I never got the opportunity to learn calculus. So I have no idea how to do integrals. I don't know how to do, like, I know basic stats, but yeah, for the most part, I don't know math very well. So it's one thing I've got to go back and learn, unfortunately.
Well, fortunately, you just got to know the wave tops.
The wave tops?
Yeah, just like, kind of like.
You mean like the peaks?
No, just have an idea.
Oh, okay.
Of how the function works. If you want to go into ass-bleeding detail into like certain statistical functions, per model that you can use to try to increase performance, but
I guess it's kind of like programming or AI in general. Like, if you really want to understand what you're doing, then you can, but for the most part, you don't really have to know, like, to train a model or to inference a model. You don't really need to know about the model itself.
Yeah, that's true. You don't
if you
actually, you know what? I'm going to say, no, you should know about the model. You should know the assumptions of the model. If you do not know the assumptions of the model, you're going to get shitty outputs.
I was going to say, I should clarify and say that you should understand the limitations of what you're working with, and you should understand what you are working with, but it's not to say you have to know it in and out. If you want to extend it, you should know it in and out. If you want to improve on it, you should know it in and out. But if you just want to use it, or if you want to apply it somewhere, you don't have to know the underlying, like, I don't need to know how a V6 works in order to race a V6.
Exactly. That's the type of point I'm talking about. Yeah. You nailed it. So it's like, if I know that a truck is a different type of vehicle than a sports car, I know it's not going to go as fast as a sports car, but I know it can go places that it can't. It can do things that it can't. So, but in that, I think that's part of it, is understanding what the models are, understanding your data. If you know that if your data is not parametric or Gaussian or on a bell-shaped curve, then you are then forced to use a whole nother class of models. Yeah. And so, and in those models, those can be pretty powerful too. But you must know the assumptions of each of those models before you pass the data into it. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm really happy that you're trying and you're learning and you're playing around with the rag.
Yeah, too. I still haven't gotten that door, but
well, now there's this new thing called ragworm or Morris worm 2.
Is that the single model that's being used for both?
No, it's a virus.
Oh,
that was developed recently by Cornell University and the Israeli Defense Department.
Jeez.
It's called ragworm. Morris worm 2, because the first Morris worm was like...
Wait, like the original Morris worm back in the 90s?
This is Morris worm 2.
Jeez. Like the original worm? Jeez.
Yeah.
Please tell me that this is not like... I don't even know.
Well, it's contained. It's just been developed, so it's like it can be deployed. So if they did it, others could, but it's not like infecting the rags right now. Why
even develop it in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, probably to attack other nation states and attack their language models. That's what I'm guessing.
I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen more malicious, like, for me, the thing that I'm interested in seeing and I haven't seen yet is data poisoning. I've seen some instances where people are like putting embedded watermarks and stuff to try to like mess up the models that are being trained on the like web corpuses and stuff, but I haven't seen, so like for example, I haven't seen a model that I would like to see a model that has like an embedded malware in it, which is not really something that's detectable until cybersecurity person reviews it or something like that. But I've yet to. I'm surprised that it hasn't come about yet. That AI, like we're starting to see AI being used to like emulate certain like network traffic. I've seen AI be used in malicious ways there, but we haven't really seen AI being used in like really, really kind of manipulative ways, other than like deepfakes are kind of like the primary example at the moment. But those are pretty easy to spot versus like I think the most realistic things I've seen recently is like the Jerome Powell deepfakes. I don't know if you've seen any of those, but
the what?
The Jerome Powell deepfakes. They've been deepfaking the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell.
Oh,
and make him do like until he starts
Jerome Powell. Oh, I called him J Powell.
J Powell.
Yeah, gotcha.
Until he starts swearing, it looks pretty realistic. But yeah, it's getting really scary. Like I still remember when like Nicolas Cage was put on like the ballerina dancer, and you could very clearly see his face cut out on the deepfake. But now it's like, is this actually deepfake? And with like Sora, it's like, oh my gosh, things are worse. Like I called it back in 2016 that any sort of incriminating information should no longer be incriminating, because how can you, like, unless we have absolute definitive information that has been synthesized, I think everything could be synthesized at the moment. So it's a bit scary, but I mean, I thought things were over when the Mona Lisa, when NVIDIA did their whole Mona Lisa action thing, but hasn't progressed that bad, so haven't gotten there yet, I guess. But
yeah, well, you brought up data poisoning, and it starts turning the gears in my head, and I think, how would I poison data?
I would just overload it with garbage data, or well, I guess it depends. And I think, to go back to your point earlier, I think what's more important than understanding the data is understanding the problem. Understanding what are you trying to solve with AI. And I think the reason why that's such an important thing is because, like you said, what might work well with one model will not work at all with another model. And so if you are trying to solve a visual problem with a natural language processing model, then you're not even going to have a start, because you're trying to solve a square with a circle, so, or you're trying to solve a circle with a square, or whatever the saying is. But I think definitely like with any tool, you should know, when is this tool good and not good to use. And I think that's something I've definitely struggled with. I'm kind of like the golden hammer thing. I like to, whenever I'm interested in something new and I learn something new, I try to think like, where can I apply it to? And obviously there are some places where you should apply it and some places where you definitely should not apply it. And I think that's probably more important to learn than anything else, is just, when should I do things and when shouldn't I do things? Just because you can do things doesn't mean you should do them. So
yeah,
just because you can't implement a web server in C doesn't mean you should. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and well, poison the data. And my first thought is, all right, so let's say you had some sort of machine learning model. But let's go back. How do we poison a data stream and make sure a human doesn't see it? Because so if you could somehow taint the way somebody is scraping data, that is my first thought. But then, I mean, they're getting the raw stuff, and I'm assuming, though, that it's going to a script, and the script would be cleaning the data if they got a solid system down, and then running it into the model. The models, here's the thing about machine learning, is they can't learn.
Yeah.
like they can't self-learn. That's what a lot of people make this mistake, is that machines can't self-learn. They can't. So it takes somebody to clean it. But you could poison the data probably by doing that, by changing the way they're scraping it and inputting some sort of dummy shit that's going to throw off the prediction. And that's really all you got to do. Just add something that's going to throw off its prediction.
Yep.
Drastically.
Well, so like, for example, have you heard of the single pixel attack?
No.
So convolutional neural networks, I don't remember what the actual architectural flaw is, but there's some architectural flaw in CNNs where if you change a a certain pixel in an image to a different value, a different range, it'll actually cause the model to completely mispredict with a very high confidence. So like if you showed a picture of a horse with a single pixel change, it'll actually classify it with like a higher than 80% accuracy that it's like a dog or a frog or something.
That's a good
And
hack.
it's all because of a single pixel.
That's a good hack. That's a good one. Yeah. Tricking the convolutional neural networks. Yeah. Have you seen the ones where you can crash self-driving cars with QR codes?
I have not.
Oh yeah. That's a big issue too.
Jeez.
So like people they'll print out these QR codes that when the Tesla or something scans
the vision.
it fucks it up and it causes it to crash. So there's these.
See, that's what I love. That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's these. This was a big thing. This was
awesome.
like for years. I haven't heard about it recently in the news, but I know it's such a thing that a lot of people are just kind of straying away from self-driving cars because they realize how defeatable they are. So yeah, there's people, these anarchists that just print out these QR codes and they stick them up on street signs and shit. And so
Brutal.
yeah, and it just goes to show in the algorithm we trust that should be on the dollar bill. In the algorithm we trust, how much more of your thinking are you willing to give up to a machine? Because dude, how the hell, there's days where I feel like I'm driving and I'm like, I kind of know where the place is, but I don't know. Maybe I should pull it out of my phone. Siri, like where would I be now if I had to rely on directions and maps?
Using a map. Yep. Using an actual map and some land references.
I would have to leave like an hour early just to make sure I could find the place.
That's a good point. Imagine how much time has been saved just by the Google Maps. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's like, taxi drivers having to memorize versus just plugging it into your phone and navigating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. They used to have to know everything and all the places. And even pizza drivers. Yeah, when I was a pizza driver, I didn't have GPS at the time.
Yep.
But
TomTom was still like the
yeah, they didn't even have TomTom when I was a pizza driver in 2007, and while I was in the Marines as a second job, I made more money as a pizza driver than I did as a corporal in the Marines. But that's not saying much. The Marines don't make much money. Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
But being a Domino's pizza driver, they make money, dude. I was pulling $100 a night. $100 a night just in tips. Damn. Just in tips. That wasn't including minimum wage and the gas reimbursement.
Damn.
Yeah, I was pulling awesome. Good money, man.
That's like drive-through or coffee stand level. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, Camp Pendleton was a very lucrative place to be a pizza slinger. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I was reliant on knowing shit. But yes, if it was down to relying on going to Seattle, go to some place, I would need. There was this hacker who was on this podcast. What he did was he hacked Google Maps and he changed his phone to make it look like it was always an accident. So everywhere he drove, Google Maps would divert traffic from his path.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like there's a photo of a guy walking down the middle of the street with like a red wagon just full of phones, and it's showing there's a massive traffic jam.
Oh shit, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I want to do that. That'd be cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I think that would be cool to say and do.
It's not what you can do, it's what you can't do.
Yeah, it's what you can't do. And what's crazy is I binged these hackers, and I always think the hacker podcasts are cool because like Lex Friedman will have on like serial fucking hackers and criminals and shit, and you listen to their stories on like or even like penetration testers on how they got into shit, and that I always think that's really exciting. Some of these hackers though, the stories don't end well. The majority of them, the stories don't end well. Like they crack down hard, man.
Yep.
Yeah, they're like, you can't touch a fucking computer for the rest of your life, and all this other crap if they catch you. And
Well, look at the what was that ransomware like in 2018 or 2017 where the guy stopped the attack by registering a domain name? It was like WannaCry. Did you hear about the guy?
No, go ahead and tell that.
So WannaCry, I think it was 2018, if I remember correctly. It was a malware, a ransomware that was encrypting healthcare data. And there was some cybersecurity guy who did a bit of reverse engineering, and he found that it was making a request home to a unregistered domain name. And so he registered it, and it ended up being the kill switch for the ransomware. But the guy ended up getting arrested. The guy who stopped the attack ended up getting arrested because he had authored some malware like 10 years prior or something, or like 20 years prior or something, that had been used against like, I think, banks or something like that. And so the guy saves friggin' all these businesses from this ransomware, and then he gets thanked by getting arrested and friggin' prosecuted for this old malware that he wrote like, I don't remember how long ago, but yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So cybersecurity is one of those where damned if you do, damned if you don't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were taught, if you ever have a situation where you can execute a vulnerability, don't do it, because you never know if the person that you're doing it to will take it in a good way or a bad way. So if you're ever operating in the gray area, particularly in terms of security, always be on the cautionary side, because so it came about because our local church in the area had their website hacked, and the guy that taught me everything I know, he's like, I wanted to go see if it was actually still vulnerable, so he went in and he did the attack, and he got in, and he's like, yeah, it's still affected, but I didn't want to get in touch with them because I didn't know if they were going to have me arrested or not. So he's like, our teacher was like, yeah, don't do that. You got to be very careful. It's a very gray area. So just be cautious.
Dude, totally. Yeah. And that's why I'm interested in it. In the world of cyber law is more interesting to me than AI. Yeah.
Well, like I said, what you can't do. It's not what you can do, it's what you can't do. And there's a lot of things you really shouldn't do in cybersecurity. So, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good thing. I'm glad you brought that up, and you're knowledgeable. So yeah, you should probably, if you're gonna do, and here's the thing, those cybersecurity teams, there's people that are hired by companies just to literally do that all day.
Red teams and blue teams.
Yeah, red teams and blue teams. And I'm just learning about this stuff.
They're freaking cool.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing that I've found about the cybersecurity industry, which I don't think a lot of people realize, is it's not as like sexy as a lot of people like to think it is. Like pen testers, it's kind of like game testers, where it sounds like it's a really fun job, but in reality, it's a lot of paperwork. And you're basically just a lot of documentation. But I'm like you. I think I think it's sad that hacking has had such a negative connotation, because in reality, for me, hacking is really just people pushing things to the limits and breaking things in ways that they weren't intended to be broken in, and figuring out how to then extend that into, can I use this in a useful way? And so I think that for me, hackers are of value to society, not a hindrance. I mean, sure, there are some people who use their skills in hacking for malicious things, just like, with anything. A butter knife can be used to spread butter, or a butter knife can be used to stab somebody. It's all in how the person uses it. But I think the mindset that a hacker brings, in terms of, like I was saying about security earlier, when you're building something, if you have that hacker mindset, then you're going to think about, okay, if I'm going to attack this, how would I attack it? And then you could say, okay, well, if I'm going to do an SQL injection, then I should sanitize my inputs. And, then you can figure out ways to mitigate if you're thinking about ways you're attacking. And then you're not caught with your pants down when you get, SQL injected down the road 10 years. Basically, like with anything, I think about it as expect it. Don't think it whether or not it's going to happen. It's when is it going to happen, and how am I going to be affected by it?
And what are you going to do when it happens?
Exactly. It's kind of like backups. Like backups is something that a lot of people think about, but a lot of people don't really do. And personal experience, do backups. I have had so many things that I've lost or have had to redo because I have not taken backups. And particularly if you have Linux as your primary driver, it's not forgiving. So it's not like Windows where it does a periodic recovery for you. So backups are very important.
Yeah, backups are.
Yeah.
And if you were part of a big company with some big server with like a shit ton of information, because right now I don't have a lot of data. I can back up everything on an external and be good. But those companies, man, if somebody hacked your entire database and they're ransoming it from you, or they're injecting it with shit, or doing whatever the fuck, or just stealing all your data and deleting everything in the fucking database, just delete, dude. Yeah, and that's why I like going to that hacking group, because Casey brought up, we did something the last week. We played Backdoors and Breaches, which is a game.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a game.
It's like CTF or something?
Yes, like Dungeons and Dragons. There's like a little dice, and you roll it, but there is a way you got hacked, and you have to figure it out as a team how you did it.
Okay, so kind of like a Clue mixed with.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and you go through the different things and things I didn't think about, like you could call a consultant or whatever. But during those scenarios, it was an interesting scenario because Luke, not Luke Dupin, Luke Yamani, another cyber dude who was there, he came on the podcast. He was telling his entire story about how he got into cybersecurity because he was a car dealership salesman or working IT. He was working IT at a car dealership, and they got ransomware. And they paid the ransomware.
Oh no!
And he's like, "Fuck, am I doing? Wasting my time doing this? I should be a fucking hacker." But we go through it, and it was the same sort of scenario. But my first thought is, fucking send this malicious shit to all my competitors right now. That's my first thought. Send it off to all my competitors so we're all suffering this problem. And then call the FBI and not pay a ransom and just get cybersecurity insurance. I think that's all I would do.
Well, it goes back to my thing about backups. Like if they had backups, if they had proper backups in place, then it doesn't even matter if they get hacked, because then they just roll back to the last backup and it's whatever their backup window is at that point. But
yeah, that's so. What I've thought about doing something. I think somebody else has already done this, but I'm pretty sure you get deplatformed if YouTube caught you. But kind of like a denial of service attack, but instead of trying to deny the service by a bunch of page requests, you tone down the page requests so it's only like 1,000 an hour. So you're getting like
a slow Loris attack?
Yeah, a slow Loris.
So like slow Loris is like a request that makes a connection and only sends a request to keep it. It only sends enough requests at an interval to keep the connection open, and so it basically like slowly kills your server by like basically eating up all your connections.
Yes.
It's called a slow Loris attack.
Yes, good. See, I'm a learner. See, I've seen that pass by my face. Slow Loris. I'm like, that's a cool name. You know, all these other names that I'm seeing for attacks and stuff. I'm like, slow Loris. Okay, so probably slow Loris is what I want to use to make it seem like my page is getting a shit ton of views.
Oh, okay. If you're talking about page boosting, it's hard because as far as I understand, Google does a very good job of like even down to the IP. Like,
I figured they'd be good at it.
I'm actually confused because I know that Google has a big problem right now. Like all the platforms have a big problem of fake clicks and fake engagement. So I'm not actually sure. Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. How to emulate a video view. I'm not sure I'm not sure at what point a view is actually counted. Because it's kind of like Kick. Kick at the moment is like all up in the air with its view count because, you know, you have some people who have like 10,000 viewers, but their chat is going like, you know, turtle pace. So it's like, how many of these are actual viewers versus just, you know, embedded or whatever.
Yeah.
But
that's a good question. I think about that hard. What do they consider a view?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what I'm finding in the data. They consider a view a unique view when you post it to not a different group in what Facebook. So like I could spam 20 different groups with a video. And each one of those, unless they click on it and it's, okay, let me go back. When you take a video and you embed it into LinkedIn or any other platform, that is now changing the IP address slightly. So that when you
coming
click
from
it,
LinkedIn.
Yeah, so when you post, always be sure to click it back to it. So that counts as a unique view. And same with like Tumblr and Getter and Truth and X and all that crap. It's all embedding into that page, so it counts as a new unique view when it's embedded. When you go to like Facebook and you put 20 different Facebook pages and you click back from each Facebook, that does not change it. Yeah, it's all one. I'm noticing. So, but yeah, that's how I'm starting to figure out like the strength of my network based on a raw video initially. Like how many views did it get within the first 24 hours? Yeah.
I think I'm not experienced in the video space at all, but for me, I think like 10% engagement of your subscriber base is probably really good. Like that's probably on average what I see most like successful YouTubers get, anywhere from 10% to 15% your engagement. So.
Yeah, some of those YouTubers are faking too, because they're just paying for people in India, and I've thought of that.
They've got like 2 billion subscribers and only like 1,000 viewers on each video.
Yeah, they're paying for subs. Well, and that's the thing. That's a great metric to look at. Do you get more views than subs?
What's the ratio between your subscribers and your views, for sure?
Yeah, what's that ratio? And you can start to look real quick. I'll go to someone's YouTube channel and I'll look at it. I look at their subs and I go through. I'm like,
It's with anything like Facebook accounts, you look at how many followers they have versus how much engagement they get on each post. Anything that has a follower base, you can basically compare that to the engagement that they get, and it's like the kick chat versus the viewers. If the chat is going at a turtle pace and you've got more than 5K viewers, definitely something's not right there. Yeah, but if you're 5,000 viewers and your chat's going crazy, then there you go.
Yeah, maybe someday I'll get to that level. That would kind of seem annoying, though, if I had so many comments that you
just can't read them.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, I'll fucking respond to comments. I'll read them. I don't care. I'm all about reading the comments and the nasty little witty quips and all that shit. I'm like, great.
Well, the other issue is the platforms are also incentivized to lie about their base. So, like, I've never understood how Facebook can get away with saying that they have 2 billion active users. There's no way that you're telling me that, a fourth of the entire population in the world has a Facebook account? There's no way. There's no way that 2 billion people are using Facebook. Like, 2 billion people probably don't have running water. You're telling me that they have internet access and a phone? Like, that's, yeah. I think that a lot of numbers are inflated, and I think that, unfortunately, these platforms have no incentive to actually be honest because it looks better for them. They've got a lot of viewers. They've got advertisers that are thinking they're getting viewers.
That's how I feel too when I'm looking at. Well, first off, I've always thought TikTok was full of shit. Its numbers are straight lying.
For sure. There's no way.
And then when YouTube started doing it with the shorts, like, I started thinking over time, I'm like, am I really getting 5,000 views? Is 5,000 people actually watching that? Or was it 50? And then they add 2 zeros. There are more zeros. So I've wondered that myself. Like, what do they count as like an actual view? And if you watch it all the way through, like, or if you just click to the end of the video?
Yeah, exactly. Like if I load the video and then I stop it and then I leave, is that a view or is that a bounce? If I click and I start the video and then I skip right to the end, is that still a view or is that like?
Yeah.
Like I think it's nice that they have that little like shade where you can see like where people are clicking on the video the most. But like you said, like if they click in the middle of the video, is that still a view or is that like half a view? Yeah.
You have a shade option where you can see where they're clicking on the video the most?
It's not an option. At the bottom of every video, the red line, if you hover over that red line, there is like a little graph in the background. It kind of looks like an index that shows you where people are clicking.
Oh, duh. I learn new stuff every day.
So like you see like it'll say like most replayed. You'll see the big bell curve.
Okay, I thought that was just a fancy thing that they were doing just to be. Okay, those are legit analytics.
Yeah,
okay.
It's awesome. I think it's great because you can see like, are people actually fully watching my video, or are they like? The thing that you notice most is people will skip past the ad most of the time. Is where like they'll skip initially, but or like if the person is doing like a top 10 video, they'll always skip to the number 1. Yeah,
interesting.
It's pretty funny.
Huh. Yeah, no, I obsess about this shit. Like what's gonna all the way down to I need to choose a good gamer. So I follow this good gamer on YouTube and I just like rip off his shit because he's good at Call of Duty and I suck.
Okay. Stand on the shoulder of giants. There's no reason to start from scratch.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you wouldn't want a shitty gamer. When I first started telling people I was doing gaming, they're like, oh, is it a good gamer? I'm like, yes, I'm not going to do a shitty gamer. I'm not going to do myself. My nephew, Otto, because he's like 10 or 11 now, and he was, because he asked me about, I told him about how I added video games to the podcast. He's like, do you play them yourself? I'm like, no, Otto, I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud.
False advertising.
I'm a fraud. I don't know.
So worse things to be smokes and mirrors about. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have at least one thing that they don't let a lot of people know about, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. But I enjoy doing it because it's like, okay, well, I'm not like beholden to a script or a certain content type. But when I started adding the video games, I'm like, well, I like watching them better. And then it started increasing the
retention.
Yeah, the retention. So instead, because I was noticing that when I had long intros, people would just skip straight to like past the entire thing and get to it. And then they would either watch it for 3 minutes, 30 seconds or bounce. So I was getting nowhere past 3 minutes, 30 seconds.
Interesting.
Yeah. So once I started adding the videos, now I'm getting into the 7s per watch. If that's contingent on if they wanted to watch it. Because if somebody didn't want to watch it,
they weren't going to watch it in the first place.
Yeah. So, but the ones that do watch are kind of consistent on it. I wish they'd comment though. Yeah. But have you met Rich Colburn?
I have. Yep.
Yeah. He was on.
Yeah, the theological dark web.
Yeah, theological dark web. That's a good one. Yeah, he was. He just talked about his physics engine because he creates, and he's doing that now. He's creating physics engines.
He's wicked smart at physics.
Yeah, I need to pick his brain more, but he's just really, really passionate about theology. So when he was on, mostly what he wanted to talk about was theology. But yeah, when I listen to him talk, like very objectively, it's just like, yeah, when I look at a woman, I notice like, does she have enough area of coverage for her breasts with the bra and all this? Like, it was really funny in the podcast listening to it. I'm like, God, this is this nerd. He's just talking about, like, I would get in trouble, but it was a fun podcast. But yeah, so you moved back here in 2021.
August.
Yeah. So and you're living in Idaho?
Nope. I live in Washington.
Okay, so
Yep.
you're not living. For some reason, I've conflated you because some people I don't know if they live in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
So you live? Are you in the valley? You're a valley girl?
Nope.
No.
On the border, I'm in Liberty Lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just down the road.
Oh, yeah, it's valley. It's a valley girl. Shit. So you do the Valley Chamber Converse here.
We do both. So we do CDA, we do Spokane Valley, we do Liberty Lake.
Damn. So you're paying 3 different fees.
Mm-hmm.
How is it? Like, what's the difference in Coeur d'Alene and Liberty Lake?
There's a lot more members in the Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm trying to remember. I think the Liberty Lake might be the Spokane Valley. I might be confusing that. But really, the only difference is just the. It's not really a difference. I guess just the type of people that you interact with. Like obviously Idahoans versus Washington people. So it's not really much difference. It's just, yeah.
I have noticed that people in Coeur d'Alene want to make Coeur d'Alene a big tech hub.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well that's going to go. I feel that Spokane could blow them out of the water if they just tried. You know?
I think, yeah, I would agree. I was actually really saddened because I recently, when I have been diving back into the finance world, I looked up a bit of history and I learned that Spokane actually used to have a stock exchange.
Oh, no shit.
Back in it was, I can't remember when it started, but it closed in 95 or 96, and it primarily traded in mining stocks. Not surprising. But yeah, I would totally agree. I think Spokane is a large enough but still small enough city to be able to do big things, but not be like too big to be like San Francisco or something where you get like, 1,000 different kind of perspectives kind of clashing heads. But I definitely think that there are a lot of issues which aren't being resolved, like the homeless situation, that are always going to prevent that from ever happening. And I think Idaho's done a better job of managing the homelessness situation, but I think I think that's probably always going to be the biggest barrier because if you look at downtown, there's so much trash, there's so much garbage, there's so much like drugs and stuff, and it's really detrimental to the business, and you can't have a sustainable business if you can't have customers feeling comfortable walking into your business. So, but yeah, I think that I would like to see Spokane have like a hub equivalent to Coeur d'Alene, but yeah, I don't see that happening until the issues around like the homeless get solved. But
yeah, that's true. And I consider nowadays, how practical is it to have an actual building to operate a tech company?
That's why I like the Den, because because not only are you surrounded by other people who are innovative and entrepreneurial like you, and so not only it doesn't motivate you, but you get ideas and you can bounce ideas off of people. But I think I think that individual business like locations are a thing of the past. I think co-working spaces are the future. I think that the office, the free ride that was office rental space is gone and probably never coming back. And I think that, we need to figure out how we can make that better and not worse. I think people should be encouraging figuring out ways that we can extend the working place, not just be, in a little cubicle downtown. I mean, I don't necessarily want to be working from home all the time, but I don't want to necessarily be going into an office all the time either. And if there's some sort of middle ground that we can come to, that'd probably be the best. But
yeah, I agree. I just don't like driving all the way to Coeur d'Alene.
Save.
So, in my thought, the Den, I've thought about this hard. I think if you want to replicate what they got going here,
you could
just build a fucking folk store with the bookshelf.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing about
sure.
the whole building
For
is the
sure.
fucking door bookshelf. I'm like, it's the only reason I fucking go back. I'm like, well, just because it looks
Yep.
cool. I mean, the lighting in there is like not good for work, but it's a cool thing that like you open. So I was thinking like if Anne, who does the Burbity one here at Sullivan, if she had one of those, that'd be cool. But I think it would be cool too is like a hidden, like one of those hidden bookshelf doors, but like a futuristic one that you walk up to some wall and you hit some shit.
Like a mirror.
Yeah, or like you didn't know it was a door.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
oh, cool.
Hell
The secret room.
That'd be sick.
But yeah, because like the den's got that feel of like those little backdoor fucking
Speakeasy.
smoking the
Yeah.
little dirty backdoor deals that go on. And yeah, it's kind of got that cool feel to it. I like that.
For sure.
It's what I like about it. But yeah, it's just having yeah, I'd like to see more stuff like that. I'd like to see more tech groups get started.
For sure.
Like, because I mean, come on, I was like driving all the way to Coeur d'Alene. Yeah, I mean, we got so much human capital here in Spokane. And maybe it's just a matter of, I mean, I got to give it to Freckleton. He's doing his thing. He's very consistent about doing that.
He's doing a great job. Yep.
And yeah, if you want to do something, you got to be consistent. I'm not. I'm a lazy bitch. I'd just rather be consistent about a podcast.
I'm also the same. I'm
Yeah.
trying to dial in that consistency.
Yeah.
I'm a bit chaotic.
Yeah. But that's why I like doing the hacking group on Friday because Casey's been very disciplined about showing up and doing that. And now we're working it out to where when he takes off for his traveling for work, that way he'll have it locked on, and then one of us will go and open it up.
Nice.
And then we could do whatever. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so what's a week look like in the life of Daniel?
It's very dependent on the week.
Okay.
Depends. Sometimes I am writing code. Sometimes I'm going to the host sites to check on the sites and update. Sometimes I'm just watching, reading, researching. Sometimes I'm reading a book. Yeah. I don't do much other than program, read, and watch like anime and stuff. So.
Did you start business with your brother?
My mom.
Your mom?
Yep.
Okay, so what's your mom do?
She is a principal consultant, I think is her title, for a global software company. Yeah, that's what she does as a day job. And yeah, she's always been kind of a techie kind of person.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah.
Usually mother-son
the kind of like
partnership.
management side of tech, but yeah.
So does she do all the like getting the licenses and all that stuff?
She's the CEO side of stuff. She's the management side of things.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
all
cool.
the stuff I'm bad at.
Yeah, so you can focus on
the tech.
on doing that,
Yeah.
which is cool. So is there any big projects that you're thinking about wanting to undertake right now?
There's a whole lot of projects. It's just trying to find the time.
Yeah.
So like a really long-term project is logistics. I have a particular irk with. I think that logistics is one of the most damaging things to our roads. I think logistics is one of the most congesting things to our roads. And so one of the really, really long-term projects that I'd like to do, which really kind of pisses me off about the whole Hyperloop situation and it closing down, is underground logistics Hyperloop. So basically, I'm very surprised Elon Musk didn't think about this, but basically the idea of a Hyperloop, but instead of having cars underground, you send all of the logistics underground. And so basically, I call it electrogravatics. The idea being you use gravity and combined with electromagnetism, and you basically have a big U-shape tunnel underground. You have two distribution centers. You send items from distribution center A to distribution center B via the electromagnetic tunnel. The idea being that you have a bunch of magnets that are lining this tunnel, and you have kind of like a maglev train, if you've ever seen those, but the whole tunnel being basically a big magnet tube, and then having the container, the shipping container, being a magnetized tube as well, so that when you put it in, the magnetism just pushes it through, and that way you don't need electricity. And ideally, it would be bidirectional based on what direction you're pushing it in. So then if I'm pushing it from A to B, the direction will go from A to B based on me pushing it from A. So all the magnets will shift their polarity to be facing so that it pushes it from A to B, if that makes sense.
A railgun.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. A railgun for logistics.
Yeah, dude, it's
Yeah.
kick-ass. Before you came, I posted something on LinkedIn that I saw, and they made that to launch fucking rockets into space. They made a railgun, and it's cool. It looks like a snail, too.
Interesting.
Yeah, it looks like a snail, and they put the rocket, I mean, it's fair-sized rocket, and they shove it into it, and then it does its magnet, and it just shoots it right out. It's freaking cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, railguns are crazy.
Railguns are freaking
Dude,
insane.
yeah, have you seen those things? How they shoot them from Navy ships? I remember when they first came out. Like those.
I haven't seen the Navy ship one.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. They take it. It's not a sexy looking rocket. It's literally just a piece of
It's like
metal.
a slug.
Yeah, it looks like a piece of metal that kind of looks like an arrow.
Yeah.
And they put it into it, and then they fire it, the railgun, and it shoots out so quick that it just there's fire, even though there's no combustion, because it's just burning the oxygen because it's so quick. Yeah, it's really powerful shit, man.
It's very nuts. Yep.
Yeah, that's I would like to see that. So some sort of an underground high speed rail system like our subway. I like that. I'm a big advocate for that. When I was in Singapore is when I noticed, and maybe New Zealand has. I should ask about their transportation system. Maybe they have better. Do they have good
They have better public transport than here. I would say that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Singapore, they had this very elaborate train system that went all over the city and very quickly. And you did not know. Most people walked and took the train. And I thought that was cool. I thought that would be cool if we had something like that here. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see something where like an underground system that could zip you from Seattle to New York City. Like nothing.
Isn't that what SpaceX is supposed to do? 35 minutes from one side of the world to the other?
Oh, if that's their goal, shit, man.
I'm pretty sure that if I remember correctly, their idea was to get anywhere in the world 35 minutes.
Probably achievable.
Yeah.
I like riding a train though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd ever ride SpaceX rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like Neuralink. I don't think I'd ever get Neuralink.
Yeah, so you're interested right now. So your biggest, or not, I wouldn't say that. So a big pet thing for you is the logistics system and solving logistics problems.
Education, logistics, food safety, water safety, all that kind of stuff. Basically, I'm interested in everything that's required to keep humanity going.
That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's really novel. So what else would you do to solve the logistics problem?
So there's a couple things with that, right? So the first thing is, one, you're not getting rid of logistics entirely. So you're not replacing lorries or trains with this underground system. All you're doing is reducing the amount of distance that they're having to travel. So you'd still have trucks. It's just those trucks, instead of driving from distribution center A to distribution center B, would drive from distribution center B to the store or wherever they would be distributing the end product to. It'd be the last mile, kind of like for like internet service providers in that regard. So there's a nice thing in that it's not replacing people's jobs. All it's doing is kind of shifting the job to being a little more focused and less destructive, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you could run things underground, that would, assuming it would be straight,
Yeah, well, however it gets there.
You don't have to go up and down mountains and overpasses and.
Yeah, well, the nice thing is because it's just I don't know if you'd ever be able to transport organic material, but inorganic material, you could theoretically shoot it at the speed of light. You could shoot it as fast as you want. you don't have to worry about like, you know, a person's blood being compressed into their skin or something.
That'd be an interesting thing to see if they created your Hyperloop rail and like, well, this is the first test with chickens. They died. Well, that's kind of like the way Elon Musk was doing it with his Neuralink shit. That's one of the big controversies too, is they got the FDA approval probably from just paying off. That's the thing. Elon Musk does whatever the hell he wants. It's like NASA's such a joke now. Like, what are they other than to be like, we're the government regulators for what you're doing. Well, you need to send up NASA astronauts. You know,
it was so funny when NASA was like, "We're going to be doing an investigation of space." I was like, "Who gives you the freaking authority to investigate a private freaking company who's doing better than you?" Stupid.
What is almost like insulting to the American taxpayer at this point is that NASA still makes rockets. And they're still trying to launch people with those fucking old school rockets.
They recently did.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've recently landed on the moon. So why?
Yeah.
Well, I think in that particular case, it's because like China's threatening to take the resources from the moon. So
they're threatening to take down our flag.
Well, it's kind of like the Taiwan Strait. Like, I'm pretty sure they're just doing it so that like, well, I think it's stupid. Like, you shouldn't have to constantly use something in order to maintain your access to it. Like, international waters should be international waters regardless of if they're used for international reasons or not. Like, we shouldn't have to commit resources to you know, put our boats through the Taiwan Strait so that the Taiwan Strait is always considered international waters. Like, that's just so stupid. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's why we had to do the whole space race again, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I have to confirm.
Well, I'm going to go back to how Elon Musk with Neuralink, a lot of monkeys died. And they're like, fuck it.
They tried to hide it.
And that was some creepy shit too. How they tested on the monkeys and all that stuff, and the animal testing that was involved. I personally am never going to get a thing in my head. I say that now.
Same. Well, for me, it's always like, if a Tesla can get hacked, a Neuralink could get hacked, and I don't want to get my freaking something that's connected to my brain hacked. Last thing I want is freaking ads being shown directly to my cortex.
And you know, the first version or the first software version
is going to be buggy as shit.
It's going to be buggy. It's going to be bulky.
Yep.
You'd be like, yeah, I remember when they put the bean in my head, it was the size of a hockey puck.
Yep.
And now they're just small.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that'll be... Have you watched Black Mirror? Dude, that's a good show. They need to come out with more episodes of that.
Yeah, it's also one of the reasons why I'll never play a game with AI that's augmented reality.
Oh, yeah.
Playtest really kind of ruined me for that.
With the one where the dude died? Well, there's a few episodes.
The one in the haunted house, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fucking trippy one, dude.
That was the first episode I ever saw of Black Mirror. And I was like, I've never played a friggin' AI-powered AR game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have turned off his phone and he wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
But damn, dude. Yeah, that would be some shit. To experience a trip like that. Like, well, I'm waiting for the day, you know. You're kind of seeing it with the VR headsets and the little mobile gaming running thing. That might be the new future of gaming.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that the VR has had such a struggle. But John Carmack actually does a really good Lex Friedman podcast where he talks about his time at Oculus and the struggles and stuff that he's had with that. So it's a very good, highly recommend podcast episode.
I will have to listen to that. Lex Friedman's podcast turns me on to some interesting people that taught me shit. Like, there's this one dude, I forget. He was on for it was like a 7-hour podcast. He's had a couple of those now, but he was some Indian dude who did a 7-hour podcast with him and talked about how karma is added into Google. Like, yeah, through your number. So like so if you want to increase your karma and your ranking,
please in every search.
Get more foreigners' numbers in your cell phone.
Huh.
Yeah, that's how. So it so
Is that because they have your? Is that because they access your contact list and?
yeah, it shows that you're not racist and you're not afraid to reach out with other people, and so that increases your karma, which is in the system.
And what does the karma do for overall?
The karma adds to your ranking, your page ranking. It's like a
Seriously?
social credit score. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, we've had this, but Google, the CEO of Google's like, oh, we don't have karma in the system because we don't religious, wink, wink, nod, nod. But they're the ones who created it because they're fighting racism, and they're fighting racism by doing
create
that.
more racism.
Well, just get foreigners' numbers in your phone, and that'll increase your K means cluster analysis.
Oh.
So if we go into like the machine learning model,
groups you.
It's going to increase your the cluster analysis ranking. So it's going to
It'll group
increase
you closer to others that are.
Yeah, it's showing that if you can get points in your phone from people that live a lot further distances away from you, it shows your cluster is bigger. So you're ranked
Your
higher
reach
as
is
a
higher.
cluster. Yeah. So that's part of it. So getting foreigners' phone numbers.
It's kind of concerning.
Yeah, it kind of is. But I mean, if you meet somebody who's like from India or from Mexico or wherever, and like, oh, hey, blah blah blah, I need a friend. Give me your phone number, and then yeah, might help out, might work. So as that goes to a question is like, what is influence? What do they consider an influencer, right? So an influencer is a person that can convince a bunch of people that don't speak the same language to just agree to like something. That's you're influential. You can cross-pollinate and go in different cultures and talk to other people. That's what shows them. Yeah, it's that simple. But it's huge because a lot of people, one thing that helps my LinkedIn growth is I friend a lot of Arabs. A lot of them. I'm not afraid of them. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I friend a lot of Arabs.
Is that because they have a large connection?
Well, most of my following is Arabs and Indians.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it makes more sense. It's hard to get white people to like you. It's hard to get Americans to like Americans, but the foreigners will like you a lot more.
Well, especially if it's something like AI or tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. And so, or even just funny shit. When I post funny things, like I'll post a meme like of a guy vacuuming his driveway. It's like, sometimes I vacuum my driveway to make sure the neighbors don't ever talk to me, you know?
Nice.
So, but consider doing that. But yeah, most Americans flat out refuse to befriend Arabs. They are afraid of them. So I'm not. So that's what helps me out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I reach out to a lot of Arabs. So I'll target people in different countries, and I'll just try to friend them and I max out my LinkedIn every week. So it's a new week. So before you came, I put in 100 new requests. So you can do 100 requests.
They limit your friend requests?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
to 100 a week
Is that on a free account? Or is that
on a free account.
Oh, okay. I assume it's unlimited if you're paying.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. See, I don't. And that's another thing where some people
Say it's worth it. but
I'm
you don't
all
really
about just not spending money at all. At all. Like if
you don't need to, why do it?
yeah, if and I don't believe in that, and I think there's people who try to hustle you and say it takes
need to
money to
spend this.
make money.
Yeah, you need to spend this money.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, actually, it takes human energy to create revenue, to generate revenue, you know? And so when people say, like, how do you make money? And I'll say, I don't make money. The people who make money work in a mint. Everybody else has to earn money.
True that.
But yeah, at least you're looking into investing. So what companies have you been eyeballing?
Basically, so I've been relooking through some books that I've purchased on investing, to kind of like find what are indicators that I like to look for and stuff like that. So the most recent book that I've been covering has been talking about how interest rates affect assets. So when interest rates are increasing, financial assets decrease in value, real assets increase in value. So stocks and bonds decrease, gold, precious metals, things like that increase. Real estate, when inflation goes down, then the opposite occurs. And so I've been looking more at like utilities, been looking at precious metals. Basically, I don't want to just stick to one. Like I like what you do in that keep it simple, just do common stock. But I would like to at least do like some stocks, some options, like diversify outside of just stocks a bit. But yeah, just try to build like a good position for a long-term investment. I'd like to be long in silver. I'd like to be long in gold. I'd like to be long in some tech stocks and stuff like that. So yeah, just putting together what I would like to invest into so that when I can start investing, then I know exactly what I'm looking to invest into and stuff like that. So
$35 a month. That's all you need.
Hell yeah.
You just buy one share of Honda Motors. And then in 10 months, you own 10 positions in Honda Motors.
Yep.
Ah, that's cool. So you got your, what did you get your bachelor's degree in?
IT.
IT.
Majoring in software development.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. Good. And that's great that you're learning about how the Fed works.
Yeah.
A lot of Americans don't know how the Fed works.
It's actually really, I think it's really awesome and interesting. I think that there's no other system like it in the world. There's no other system like our Federal Reserve. There's no other system like our financial system. I mean, like, when people think about why is America so successful, you got to realize we have two financial markets, and both of those are bigger than every other financial market and bigger than most countries' GDPs. Just the New York Stock Exchange is $15 trillion in market capitalization. Like, that's insane. The next highest, I think, is like Hong Kong or Japan Stock Exchange at like maybe I think it's like 8 trillion or something. Yeah. And we have two. Like, you got the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and then we got the New York Stock Exchange. Both of them are $15 trillion.
That's good. You know that the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Oh yeah, gotta
get
your commodities.
Good trivia. So yeah, and you're learning about when the Fed raises interest rates. Yeah, the Fed sets monetary policy, and you already mentioned Jay Powell, the Fed chief's name.
Yep. If you aren't watching his I don't know what they're called, like the monthly or periodic announcements, highly recommend. Well,
I listen when I listen to like the Motley Fool and Jim Cramer, they usually
reference him.
I'm lazy. I just listen to what they think. But what is unique is what Jay Powell is saying, and he's been saying it for a while. What he wants to do is get people like you and me, all of us that are techie, to go get a fucking job on the factory floor making flip-flops or doing stuff, working in American industry, not actually building tech shit. And that, I'm kind of seeing that. I'm kind of seeing a slow changing shift of that. Like that, I'm seeing a lot of people.
You mean like how it used to be like 5 years ago, everybody was talking about coding, and now it's like you don't really hear about that. It's more like trade jobs and manufacturing and bringing the manufacturing back.
Yes, absolutely. And that in manufacturing businesses seem to be what I'm noticing people wanting to acquire, whether it's even like building a cobbler shop. My dad, well, I'm a custom cabinet maker. It's a trade I have. So before I went through all this, I learned how to make cabinets with my dad, and I also worked at Huntwood for a while as a custom cabinet maker. I had my own thing that went up and down, and it was a lot of fun. I learned it's fun to work with your hands. I enjoy it, and maybe one day in my life I'll go back to that because that's lucrative. It's like the South Park episode. They made that episode where all the handymen are billionaires, but like everybody else is poor.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, and like Randy Marsh, like, why did I waste my time going to school? I should have been learning how to do shit and fix things. Yeah, but the J-Pal, he wants to push people back into manufacturing, and going back on the floor, because the fact is our robotics aren't there to make it. So I'm starting to feel that too. Well, and maybe that's the feeling I get in Spokane. Because Spokane, mixed with what J-Pal says, is, well, Spokane's very industrial. Mm-hmm. It's more industrial than it is
for sure
tech-driven. Yeah.
I'd say, definitely more like aerospace, industrial than tech. I'd say Idaho's more the tech, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Boeing is the largest employer.
Yep.
Gonzaga University is the fourth largest employer. Mm-hmm. And I learned that from like some random things, because I get around some networking, but I listen to their stats and facts. Yeah, but when the Fed raises interest rates, the cost of borrowing money increases. Mm-hmm. So when the cost of borrowing money increases, and the cost of borrowing money increases, and the cost of holding money also increases. Yep. So,
also the exchange rate increases, which I didn't realize until I started looking into Forex. But all of the big enterprise multinational companies are all big players in Forex. They have to be big players in Forex because they have to be able to pay foreign currency. So they get super screwed when interest rates go up.
That's a good point. That's a good point for those international companies too. And when I went and I toured Microsoft, I was talking to their CTO because he was giving us all a thing for this thing at I went to Microsoft for Gonzaga University. It was a dog and pony show, and they're like, "Oh, hey, check out Microsoft." Blah 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 blah. And the CTO of Microsoft, he's like, "We deal with the country of Argentina in oil." Like, I guess we're an oil company now. And then, he says that to me, and I'm looking at Microsoft stuff, like, Microsoft they're very pro oil. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, I notice it. Yeah, but you're right. And Microsoft is fucking huge. Like, I didn't realize how big they were, but they are an international.
Everywhere.
Like, they're their own country in a way.
It's like Google.
Yeah, Google and Apple still makes the most money. Like, and they show those little money graphs of circles of companies, and Apple is like the biggest. Mm-hmm. Apple has the most, like, per square foot, has a ridiculous amount of sales in their floors, in their stores per square foot.
They've done a very good job in terms of sales. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the Fed increases the interest rate, the cost of borrowing money increases, and then what the Fed is trying to do is buy back all those T-bills that they put out into circulation. Mm-hmm. Now, where inflation, my economics professor taught me this once, so I don't know if I can repeat it directly, but exactly how he did it. Inflation can be lucrative if you hold your money.
Okay.
So when they purchase T-bills, they're taking money out of circulation because they're buying them back from the banks, and they're reducing the number of dollars in circulation. So it increases. Yeah. So if you hold that, your dollar could possibly be worth more. If you
supply decreases, demand increases.
If you got a lot more money in an inflationary period and you held it, the value of the dollar will increase as the Fed reduces the T-bills in circulation. But yes, when the Fed increases the interest rate, first off, you're going to find whenever they announce like a 0.25% increase, every fucking dividend aristocrat company is going to use that as an excuse to skimp on the dividend.
Damn.
Because they do. And believe me, they did that 3 months ago. Damn. But I mean, they hit you up because they're like, "Oh, we'll give you a special dividend now." Yeah, so like McDonald's did that because the McDonald's usually pays like $5-6 a share. Good dividend.
Damn.
And $90,000 a year in dividends is tax free.
Damn.
So yeah, just figure out how many shares of stock you got to buy to pay off one bill, and then for the rest of your life, and then just keep adding bricks into the walls of Babylon. So right now, Wally World's cheaper, so I'll pick up 10 shares over time in Wally World. So that'll be like a $600 investment. Hopefully I can get that in over the year, and then I'll have 10 shares of stock in them. And then 5 years from now, they should be worth 3 times more than what they are now, given their growth. Eli Lilly will get you rich fast.
What's Eli Lilly?
Eli Lilly's a drug company.
Oh,
Yeah.
the pharma company.
Yeah.
Are they the ones that had their stock change because they were mistaken as one of the ones that like agreed voluntarily? Is Eli Lilly the one that had like the tweet that like caused their stock to either go up or go down? Am I thinking of the right pharma?
I'm not. I think you might be thinking about
There's one
Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer.
There's one of the pharmaceutical companies who announced that they were voluntarily going to adhere to the Biden administration, whatever their thing was. And then their like stock either went up or went down. And then they tweeted like a day later and they're like, this was not correct information.
Oh shit. Like, oh,
this is false. Like,
this is a fake account. This is not real, guys. Give us the money
I don't
back.
know if it was fake, but it's like, this was not correct information.
That's funny. I'm going to have to look into that. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's kind of like the SEC BTC ETF was a bit different because that actually got the SEC Twitter account actually got hacked. But yeah, that's another example where the SEC made an announcement that BTC ETFs were approved, and then everyone was like, "Woo!" And then like a day later, the SEC's like, "That was not a correct tweet," but they still got approved anyway, so didn't matter.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Do you know the story behind the clothing store Lululemon?
I don't even know if I know of the store Lululemon.
Okay, Lululemon is a very popular apparel store that a lot of white women like wearing.
Okay.
It's like they do sporting apparel, like yoga pants and shit.
Okay.
So the founder of Lululemon, after he built it and sold it off, like he was making a point that you can name it a company anything you want. So he named it Lululemon and he sold it. But after he sold it, he said the reason he named it Lululemon was to make it difficult for Asians to pronounce. I know. And he mostly sells in Japan too.
Why?
Just because he's fucking racist. And his stock dropped a shit ton after he made that announcement. This was a couple of years ago.
Jeez.
But yeah, it recovered. And what's funny is when I watch people wear Lululemon, I'm like, it's fucking funny. You know the history of that.
It's like Alibaba. Did you watch the Jack Ma Elon Musk panel?
Well, maybe.
Like I think it was 2019 or 2020. I think it's 2019. It was before Jack Ma disappeared. So Jack Ma did this AI panel with Elon Musk, and oh my gosh, he you have to watch it. It's really hard to describe, but basically he made himself look like such an incompetent idiot that Alibaba stock after that, the day after that interview, the panel, it dropped like 7 or 8%. It was insane. It tanked. He made some really stupid comments. He's like, I don't think about artificial intelligence as artificial intelligence. I think about it as Alibaba intelligence.
Oh God, yeah, that's gonna fucking that's some douchey shit.
He's like, I don't think one of the dumbest things he's like, AI is very good at certain things. Humans shouldn't compete in the same things that AI are trying to compete in because humans will never be able to compete in the same things AI can compete in. It's like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
What? Like, he's like, we just shouldn't try to compete in anything that AI is good at. It's like, okay, what's AI not good at yet? It's like, okay, like, sure, maybe some complex tasks that like only a few people could do, but like just not compete against AI is like, he's like, I don't think AI could ever be better than human intelligence. He's like, if it could, we would have already achieved it. He's like, but you see, it's just Neanderthalic. It's just tiny intelligence. He just completely dismisses it. And Elon Musk is just like, AI is going to be one of the most like major threats to the future of humanity outside of population decay. He's like super serious. And Jack Ma just Yeah, highly recommend watching it.
I will watch that because bringing up what he said, I kind of can agree with him that AI isn't all that it's cracked up to be.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, if you say stupid douchey shit, your shit's gonna drop, man. That's
well, not only did the stock drop, but he was forced to step down after that.
oh well, that happens. That's kind of speaking of mutinies with OpenAI's dude. Fucking Jack Dorsey was his name. He was the guy who created OpenAI. He was the founder of ChatGPT.
Elon Musk. You talk about the Elon Musk ripping OpenAI because they're not committing to open anymore or whatever. Or they're...
That was part of it, and that's why I didn't feel bad for Jack Dorsey when he got outed.
Dorsey's Twitter.
I'm sorry.
No,
fuck. Man.
Oh, Sam Altman.
Sam Altman.
Yeah, you're all good.
I'm sorry, everybody. Shit.
You're all good.
Yeah, so Sam Altman.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
You mean when he did this whole like I'm leaving OpenAI thing? Is that what you're talking about?
No, he got kicked out. His board fired him. And now he works for Microsoft.
No, he went back.
Oh, now he's back? Okay. Now I know.
As far as I know, they made good.
Okay.
As far as I know.
I wouldn't fucking feel good. Like your whole board like threw your ass out.
Yeah, I still have no idea what actually happened.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is what I suspect. I suspect that Elon Musk might have had something to do with it because Altman pissed off Elon Musk. He fucking charlatanized him. He conned him out of money to go build OpenAI because Elon Musk was one of the initial angel investors, and then he took it, sold it all to fucking Microsoft.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm like, well, that'll get you done. And then magically his board fires him for basically being a lazy liar. But yeah, so if you're saying he's back with him, maybe he's back with him now. It's hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah.
And I think of what is going to be the future of ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Bart. Right now, I only go back and forth between GPT and Gemini. Now I use Gemini because it produces images, but you gotta it's a stubborn fucking woke bitch, dude. It won't get, it's like...
I thought that they stopped the image generation because it was so bad.
No, they still...
They're still doing it?
Yeah, it'll still produce. It'd be like, I need an image of... I said something. I need an image of a man leading a workout class of women. And it said, I can't give you that because that shows the fucking blah, 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 blah.
Misogyny.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? Can I get a picture of a person working out? And like, I can't do pictures of people.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. Fuck you. And the only reason I'm going to Gemini is because Stable Diffusion put up a paywall. So
did they really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
you get like 5 free ones, and then you have to pay tokens.
Damn.
Yeah. So
it probably dropped off quite hard.
Well, I instantly quit using Stable Diffusion. Like, you put up the paywall, I'm moving on so I got other places. I got Genmo that can do it. I got another one. Now I just ask people, and they just pop up with all these new free
services.
Ones.
Yeah.
And Luke Dupin, I don't know if you met Luke, but yeah, Luke created his own one, that inked.ai, where he draws something. And I showed that in my podcast when I was like doing the intro for him. I was showcasing it. Like, I drew a cat, and it created a cat. And I tried drawing a penis too. I drew a dick, and it generated as a
cat.
No, it generated as a little dog with a floofy flower hat standing on top of 2 strawberries. That's funny. I thought it was funny.
Jeez.
So, but yeah, that was cool. He's able to do that. But that's why so when it goes back to all these large language models, and I'm testing them too. I'm like what's better at coding? And even though Gemini claims it's better at coding, I think ChatGPT is better at coding. It's just, I think what's going to happen is eventually you're going to find that one that you feel is better. I'm kind of leaning with ChatGPT because they were the innovators on it. Then again, maybe if Gemini can unfuck itself and give me some better like code. And I'm noticing that too. Like I think in the world terms of data science, like ChatGPT is just kind of a better data scientist than Gemini. But
yeah, well, they've got access to Copilot or to GitHub. It's kind of a very valuable asset of Microsoft. I'm still so surprised that Microsoft was allowed to acquire GitHub.
Damn.
And LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, they make Microsoft making money on that LinkedIn ads. And they're a good stock to own too. They pay a decent dividend. Decent dividend aristocrats. But yeah, we've been going at 2 hours 45 minutes now, so
good for however long you want to go for.
Well, I guess talk about book recommendations that you got for people.
Book recommendations? Yeah. So I primarily read science fiction, history, philosophy, practical. My absolute highest recommendation, which is the reason why I started getting back into reading, is Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive series. They are epic biblical series, so they are all 1,000 pages or more. I think the smallest one's like 1,018 pages.
That's an epic.
There's 4 books so far. He's just finishing his 5th, and it is every bit is awesome. It gets better and better as you progress. It is this like think of Game of Thrones, but like way better.
Okay.
And it doesn't. I've never read the books of Game of Thrones. So I can't really say how it ends, but the ending it hasn't ended yet. But it gets better. It doesn't just get like kind of stagnant and stale. But I would recommend that for like fantasy. Highly recommend Isaac Asimov. Any Isaac Asimov for science fiction. If you haven't read like iRobot. Highly recommend. Otherwise, I'd highly recommend the Foundation series, which Apple unfortunately butchered recently with a TV series that they came out with. They do an okay job, but it completely butchers a lot of the books, so I'd recommend actually reading the books. But Isaac Asimov is an amazing science fiction author. He's a hard science fiction author, so a lot of what he does is realistic science fiction, which is what I like about him. And then in terms of like philosophy, I read quite a bit of like Nietzsche, a little bit of Schopenhauer, currently reading Meditations, and then like practical, I'd pick up like a data structures and algorithms book. I'm currently working through my data structures and algorithms in C book. Or I'd also recommend like set theory books. I really love set theory. I wish I was better at set theory, but yeah, I think set theory is one of the most foundational things in math and everything. So
I need to learn about that too.
Yeah, set theory is cool.
Yeah.
Everything devolves to sets. Yep.
That's true. It certainly does. It certainly does.
And it's applicable in a lot of things. Like recommendation systems are pretty much just using set theory to say, okay, you've chosen these 2 things. What are things that are in the middle that are analogous to both of them? The intersection of A and B is the recommendation. Yeah.
That's good. It's like market basket analysis. Yeah, that's why I need to study it because, like I said, I only know enough I only know how it
dangerous.
Works. Like you know, it's like. Okay, open up the hood. Here's the alternator, and there's the engine, and there's this. And if you want to make the engine go faster, just pour in this with this, and just see if you get the right mixture. And then that's all I kind of know.
Right there with you.
Yeah, but
that's why I said I got to go back and learn math because I'd like to get to the point where I can actually like develop and architect models, and actually like extend models rather than just use models.
Yeah. There's people who hard code them. Like once you know, like, once you know the statistical formula, of whatever. It's not hard to code it. You can create your own functions too and do that. So that's kind of fun. I think that's what Freckleton is doing with, he's trying to, I'm not sure exactly what he's doing. That seems like what he's doing. He's trying to go the hard route of learning things from the math level and trying to interpolate it to
application.
Now. Yeah. So yeah, that's kick ass. Yeah, set theory. What I found out when I found that algebra is the hardest. And people have said that shit. And that's what really beats people down with math is they get their asses beat in algebra. I've took algebra 3 times.
Yep.
I passed each time, but I had to retake it 3 fucking times just within my adult life. Just to figure it out. And calculus is easier.
You reckon?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Calculus is way easier. Like, once you understand the little bougie rules in algebra, like how to pull a square root out of a fucking exponent or whatever the fuck it is, for like those strange things, like the integral math is very simple.
Gotcha.
It's very simple. Like, algebra is harder, and it's way more self-defeating.
I think the rules have always been the thing that I've struggled with the most. Like I'm terrible at remembering, like, okay, if you encounter this specific scenario, you have to apply this rule. It's like, well, shit, well, I don't remember that. Yeah. But I would say that as I learn or come across more and more, I realize that statements like, I was one of those people that was like, why am I learning Pythagoras theorem? I'm never going to use this in my life. I've always thought like that. But then I realized it's not necessarily because you won't use it. It's because you don't know why it's useful. And I realized Pythagoras theorem is one of the ways that we can prove that 2 has a square root. And that was never something that was taught to me or something like that. So I was like, that's awesome. That's freaking cool. Like, I didn't realize you could use this really simple a squared plus b squared equals c squared to prove that a number which doesn't look like it has a square root has a square root. And so, yeah, stuff like that. And so I realized that there are kind of like data structure and algorithms. It's I realized that you can tell the difference between a person who's good at programming and a person who's great at programming by how they view data structure and algorithms. A person who's kind of like okay at coding will be like, data structures and algorithms, I don't need to learn that because I'll never use that in my life. Whereas a person, people don't realize they're using data structures and algorithms all the time. Like, you're using an array, you're using a hash table, unless you actually know what those are and why they're useful, where they're applicable. Like you were saying earlier, where are these good to be used and where are these not good to be used? That's where you get the people who are like, John Carmack's versus, I don't know, just your average everyday programmer. Yeah.
True. Have you been playing around on Kaggle or?
I have an account. I don't really do Kaggle, just because I'm not at the point where I feel comfortable enough to go out and do machine learning problems just like willy-nilly. Basically, the only thing I use Kaggle for is just go find data sets.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So with exploring data, that's always a good first step. It's just learning how to explore data.
Yep.
And just create the visual graphs.
I would say that that's definitely one thing that I don't think a lot of people think about when they think about AI is the validation side of things and the actual, like, okay, it's making inferences. Is it actually making correct inferences? Is it making false positive inferences? And like that is, I find that the worst part of the whole thing. Like I hate doing the visualizations and the validations and stuff like that. But if you don't do that, like, good luck trying to figure out whether or not you've actually done something. Yeah, 'cause I've only ever done one AI project, and that was probably the most time that we spent was trying to validate the observations that we got from the model. Not necessarily like training it took a few hours, a few days, I think, actually, on the full data set. But actually creating the data set took the most time. We had to screenshot, and then we had to do a bounding box around the boat for the screenshot, and then save the Cocoa format.
That's a lot of work.
It's very, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I think we did like 7,000 images. Yeah.
Well, what could be a big thing that just being a data analyst, that's something that just get good at visualizations. That's a big, that's value adding to companies. If you can take their data sets and just give them an output of each variable. Like, hey, so I dropped all the empty columns and I got rid of duplicates. So that's always like, drop empty columns, get rid of duplicates. It's always a necessary step in all data science. Right. So
Clean your data set.
Yep. And so you clean it a little bit and then you visualize each variable for them. And that's it. And you say, look, I cleaned the data set and I visualize each one of these variables. This is what it looks like. You can also get like basic statistics, like descriptive statistics. Like, looks like your guys' average revenue is this, this, and this, and this. And just the act of visualizing it for them is very value adding. So, and that's what I'm finding more and more with my data science peers is they keep saying your ability to storytell with data is
The value.
is the real huge soft skill, I guess. Which has been an interesting thing, like the concept of a soft skill for like myself came from the Marines. Like there is no soft skill. Like, I didn't.
Soft is not a word in the dictionary.
No, well, I didn't. It took me forever to figure this out, but I finally figured it out because I was like, okay, I get it. Soft skills means talking like you're gay.
Not necessarily.
That's what I figured it out.
Well, for me, like a soft skill is something that is not inherently like that you can teach somebody. It's like I can't teach you how to be kind. That's a soft skill. I can't teach you how to be motivated. That's a soft skill. I can teach you how to cut a piece of wood to a certain length and make a cabinet. That's a hard skill. But I can't teach you how to public speak. That's a soft skill.
Yeah.
Well, I get maybe that one's a hard skill, but yeah. As far as my understanding, a soft skill is something you can't necessarily teach somebody versus hard skills is something you can.
So soft skills you can't teach. That's true. I bet it's hard to teach. You have to get those instilled into you.
Yeah. Or you have to like build it up or learn it or not like build the habit of it.
Okay. So I'm going to try that when I do open mic night, though. I'm going to incorporate that as a joke. Like,
do it.
So soft skills means you talk like you're gay. I just got to work on it. I got to work on the delivery. I got to work on all this shit. Did you know that Coeur d'Alene is such a nice city that they named a tribe after it?
Is the tribe? City's not named after the tribe? The tribe's named after the city? Seriously? That's weird.
Yeah, that's the joke.
That's really weird. I always thought it was always the tribe.
Nope, Coeur d'Alene. It's French for heart of an owl.
Huh.
Yeah. Coeur d'Alene.
What a strange thing.
That's the joke.
What the hell?
What I also think is funny is like all this cancel culture and the Spokane Indians are still a thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that the Redskins did get renamed, right? If I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure. But I think that the Spokane Indians is actually kind of like Aunt Jemima. I think that it's actually good. It's good exposure for the Spokane Indians.
Well, the tribe fought tooth and nail because they were going to change it. And the tribe fought tooth and nail, the Spokane Indians, to keep it? To keep it.
Hell
because
yeah.
it's good marketing for them.
Exactly, yeah, see?
Like the actual tribe.
Yeah.
And so that's great.
What would you change it to? Like,
oh, they were gonna change it to some stupid thing and have some like it. But on their jerseys though, they have the name of the tribe.
Oh,
but like the Ikawaka or whatever the hell they were. Don't quote me. But yeah. But to me, I think we should rename them to the Spokane Spokies. And have the mascot be a homeless person, like a homeless person mascot. And that would make the games better because people will show up there to take their angst out on the mascot. Because the mascot can do shit like during the 7th inning stretch, like shoot up heroin on the dugout and steal bikes and stuff. And everybody can just...
probably not the best representation.
Get out of here, Spokey. And then, people can take their angst out on them. And when people show up from out of town, they're like, dude, Spokane's got a homeless problem. Like, we don't have a homeless problem. We have a baseball fan problem. We got dedicated baseball fans. They hang out under the bridges all year just to wait for the season to start.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. Yeah, they're a lot like the turkey too. The homeless, they'll scavenge through the garbage. They'll fight each other in the street.
I honestly don't get how anybody can justify how, like, to me, I would not be surprised to be able to economically justify a homeless person being more detrimental to the local economy than it is in any way, shape, or form good. In any way, like, even close to being net positive. There's no way that a person in a homeless situation is not anything but a net negative to an economy. And I don't get how we are okay with just letting hundreds of net negative economy draws just damage our economy when we're already struggling. Like, people who are everyday citizens are already struggling. Why are we allowing people who are worse than those everyday citizens? Like, it's like how I'm confused with the businesses. I don't get how America is still operating, considering you have a very large amount of unemployment. Like, we've stayed at 3.7% for the last 2 years, but people don't realize that's not a good thing. to be stable at a high-ish unemployment rate is not a good thing. To be stable is like a boiling point, right? Like, it takes one little pebble to be dropped, and that'll boil over, and that 3.7% will skyrocket. And as soon as it skyrockets, we're in that recession that everybody's talking about that we're avoided. But it's just concerning that the focus is just not on the underlying issue. And everybody, like, they recently installed all these new bus terminals in downtown Spokane. So why the hell would you spend all this money on really nice looking bus terminals and you've got a line of homeless people right next to it? It's like, why would I want to sit at a bus terminal when I don't feel safe? Like, why would you spend your money on a bus terminal when you could have used that money to, I don't know, if they're not accepting medical help or they're not accepting any sort of help, send them to another state that'll try to do it, or will actually force them to do something rather than just let them wallow in whatever they're suffering. Like, how are people honestly justifying letting people sit and suffer and just basically do what? Decay until they eventually either overdose or they kill themselves or something. Like, it's just mind blowing.
It's sad. It's a sad, degrading of the human condition.
Yeah.
And I have not seen this in other countries. Like, even in Afghanistan, it's the poorest country in the Asian continent, and nobody was homeless. Like, people...
Well, I think it's hard to compare because our poorest here are still way better off than even a lot of the well-off people in these third world countries. So while I agree that these other countries don't have, it seems like, as bad of a homeless population, I would still say they're not anywhere close to the living standards that we provide for even our lowest of the lowest. Still has a phone, still has clothes, still has food, stuff like that. But I would definitely agree. It's like, why are these other companies or these other countries able to seemingly mitigate it? And whether that's like China, where they're hiding their numbers of unemployment being like 20% youth rate, or they're just, maybe they're arresting homeless people. I don't know what they're doing to fix the problem, but at least try something, not just like, keep avoiding the problem and putting your head down. Like, I've literally seen no attempt at fixing the problem since I've been back. In fact, if anything, I think it's gotten worse. And supposedly it was even worse before I moved back. Like, it was like 5 or 10 times worse, according to my mom.
Fentanyl is creepy.
Yeah.
That's a scary fucking drug, man. And I can't believe people even want to play with that shit.
I can't believe that's what they use as default for hospitals now.
Fuck, dude. And it in a fucked up way, Mexico's taking care of our homeless and labor problem. By killing them off with fentanyl and
bringing in a new labor force.
Yeah. And it's sad because the American psychiatric institutions went away in the 70s due to like treatment issues and funding issues and whatnot. So they got rid of them. So when they got rid of the psychiatric centers, the homeless went back in the street. And there was this comedian who put it pretty well. There's like inside homeless and outside homeless. There's a lot of people who are like totally worthless humans that are insane, but they live inside. Mm-hmm. They don't fuck with anybody else, you know?
They're stuck in their own little space.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's the outside homeless. And it is sad because like going through downtown Spokane, I call them the Spoken Dead. Like the Spokies.
It's a good way to
they're out there walking.
Pretty much.
You drive by the Spoken Dead, you'll see it.
It's like, how can that be in any way justifiable to be okay? Like,
yeah, it's sad because they were not in downtown as much when they had Camp Hope.
Oh, yeah.
And then they got rid of Camp Hope.
And then they shifted.
And then now they're back in downtown. And now that spring came early, they're definitely out because they're hanging out more. But it is sad, man. I walk by, like I can't even go into downtown Spokane with my kids without my kids pointing out, hey, that guy's shooting up. Like, yeah, don't do drugs. Like, don't. And I tell my kids, like, don't do this shit. These guys gave up everything in their fucking life just to fucking get high. Like, this is, and that makes me never want to do one of those drugs. It's like, if doing a drug is better than the best day I've ever had in my life, and I've had some really good fucking days, I don't want to have that. I don't want to rob the best days I've ever had in my life.
Same.
For a fucking
15-minute high.
Yeah. Which is sad. It's sad. And there's a lot of young people dying from fentanyl. And dude, just touching the shit will kill you. Like the
absorb it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like it kills cops and shit. The cops overdose and
Pen
die.
needle them out. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think legalization of marijuana was one of the best things the United States ever did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, as much as people dislike it and think that, you know, it has negative connotations, in reality, legalizing it means that not only are you streamlining the growers so that you know what people are growing, you're removing the black market from cutting it with anything else, so you're not getting laced marijuana anymore. And unfortunately, I mean, the thing that's replaced marijuana is fentanyl, and it's, you know, 50 times stronger than morphine, 100 times stronger than heroin, or whatever the thing is. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess, like, if you take like Portland, Oregon, for example, where they decriminalized everything, it's not really a good strategy, because as we're seeing, they're having to backtrack on that. But like, there has to be some sort of better answer, because incarcerating people has shown not to work. It's not rehabilitating. If anything, it's causing people to be worse members of society.
Yeah, you take people that had a drug problem, you put them around hardened criminals, and they get a fucking shitty, fucked up education.
Now they're a gang problem.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, tell me how current prison systems are supposed to rehabilitate in any way, shape, or form. Like, show me one thing that helps in any way, shape, or form to rehabilitation in terms of our, like, I mean, like, that's another thing that I think that we should look at. Like, you know, obviously when people look at like Denmark, where they have like that super lax criminal system, like, people have to realize Denmark is a very different country to the United States. The United States is the most diverse country in the world, the largest diverse population in the world. There's no way that we can replicate any of the, like, those Nordic countries are 99% or 90% all one group of people. They're not diverse. And so, of course, that works for them. Now, whether or not we could ever, like, I still think that that doesn't mean that we can achieve something similar to that, but I definitely think that we need to, like, rethinking education, we need to rethink rehabilitation and what that actually looks like. It's like drug problems. Like currently for drug addicts, we just hospitalize them against their will and put them in detox centers. Like, is that really effective? Obviously not, considering the amount of people who are coming out and still getting high again. And all that's doing is just wasting taxpayers' dollars. I mean, look at downtown. Like, there's plenty of drug treatment centers downtown, and we still have a massive drug problem. Like, it's not like, I don't know if it's the current ways aren't working or if it's just the way that we react to drugs. Like, I think the stigma is just as bad as the poor, like, rehabilitation. I think that kind of like the stigma with marijuana. Like, if you the less you stigmatize it, the more comfortable people are. It's kind of like sex education, right? The more people stigmatize it and the more people, like, shelter you, the worse you're going to be off later on in life, because you're going to end up basically making all these mistakes that you could have learned from way early on had you just been honest and had a conversation about. Same thing with anything else. You know, if we're open and honest about it, then okay, well, if these people are so addicted to fentanyl, then what is causing them to be so addicted? Is it because their quality of life is not good? Is it because they're not able to make ends meet and so they just want to escape reality? Like, okay, those are the things we need to be looking at, not just saying like, okay, well, if we just clean up the streets when, you know, some politicians are coming to visit us in San Francisco or San Diego or wherever that freaking happened. I think it was San Francisco that they did that, but they basically cleaned up the streets for like one day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what does that do? Yeah. It's very sad. There's a lot of broken systems at the moment, a lot of crumbling old systems, and I think we're coming to a head in terms of, I think the economy is coming to a halt, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I think that we are in a very big world of hurt after the presidential election. I think the presidential cycle is the only reason why the economy is still being propped up. But yeah, I think education is the way to get out of the hole.
Yeah. Well, I blame the opioid problem on doctors.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they know they started it.
Oxycontin.
Yeah. And then it moved from after they cut off the Oxycontin, they started going to heroin.
Yep.
And then now fentanyl is cheaper. $1 a pill.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Fuck. But you're right. Stigmatizing things. Like, if you just have the conversation with kids, be like, look, there's a lot of things you can ingest that will poison you. Like, you can smoke duct tape and get high off of it, but you shouldn't fucking do that because that will definitely ruin your brain cells. Like, you should...
Or you can sniff horse glue.
You can fucking huff air duster if you want, you know? You can do all this shit, but...
Well, I mean, like, the thing that people have to remember at the end of the day is we're all humans. We all make choices. We all want to try something at least once. So it's not like you're ever going to prevent your kid or somebody else from doing something. But just let them, like, give them context, give them awareness. And if they make that decision at the end of the day, that's their choice. And if they die from it, that's their consequence that they have to suffer, right? Like, all you can do is prepare people, right? You shouldn't. That's why I don't like the whole current thing, like the COVID reaction really scared me because for the first time in history, it wasn't on me to worry about my own self. It was on me to worry about your personal safety. And so we shifted from everybody worrying about their own personal space to now I have to worry about everybody else's personal space. And it's like, okay, not only am I being held to a social contract like I was before, but now I'm being expected to do this extra thing where I'm having to cover my face. I'm having to not do certain actions. Like, that's scary. That's like very, very societal warping things that once it's kind of like privacy. Once you lose it, it's very hard to get back. And it's not a matter of you don't have anything to hide. It's you deserve privacy. You shouldn't have to worry about somebody constantly peeking over your shoulder. You don't have to be doing good things or bad things to be entitled to that. 14th Amendment, right to privacy.
Dude, I was so shocked when COVID happened. I just remember telling my dad and other people, it's like, yeah, I was so surprised as to how quick Americans were to just give up their rights. Just give up.
Yep.
I'm like, what the fuck?
And not only that, but how hard they fought other Americans to give up their rights. It's like, it wasn't good enough for me to give up my rights. You have to give up your rights too. And if you don't, I'm going to get you fired from your job, or I'm going to get you basically like, people's lives were destroyed. Like, people were kicked out of the military. Nurses lost their jobs. Doctors lost their jobs. Like, what the frick? And then, like, what happened a month after it was declared over? Like, well, then we're just going to shovel this under the rug. And
I know, dude.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I almost was forced to get the vaccine to work at, I applied for a local tech company here while the vaccine mandate was still going on. And I would have had to get the vaccine, and I still haven't, and the only reason why I haven't is because I didn't think I was gonna be alive long enough to warrant getting the vaccine. But
I just printed off a fake shot card. Like, and I wasn't the only one. Like you want to talk about the largest influx of like fake documents? It was probably like fuck. I remember I still have it in my glove box, my fucking fake COVID card.
Jeez. Well, that's the thing. Like, now you're forcing people to become criminals for no reason. Like, yeah, it's just a mind-boggling situation to think that that's one of those scenarios where once you cross that line, like there's no go. We nearly implemented vaccine passports. It was actually implemented in some countries. Like we nearly got to the point where you had to show your vaccination proof, your medical history in order to travel.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like that should be, I'm surprised that is not a breach of your human rights. You should have, I'm pretty sure one of your human rights is the ability to travel freely.
Well, and it was also, well, they violated our right to assemble.
Yeah.
And we
couldn't do more than
they violated and I fucking hated it.
And the amount of people that were okay, not only okay with it, but encouraged it, was scary.
And you know, and it's fucked up things to this point to where like you can't just walk up and shake somebody's hand without them going like a fist bump hand or thing. Like it's all awkward, you know, and it makes it all fucked up. And to top that off, I hope that if there is this will probably end up happening. There'll probably in the future be a legit virus that'll kill fucking people off. But people were like, oh, you're fucking COVID bullshit. And then not want to adapt to it. And then that might be the death of it. Or people, they try to start some shit again. And because I feel like they tried starting it again, but it didn't work.
The COVID thing?
But it didn't catch fire.
Oh, you mean like the masking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, the CDC kind of screwed themselves on the authoritative figure thing. Like nobody listens to the CDC anymore.
Well, how could you as a data scientist, I can't take them serious when of every fucking dude gets hit by a bus, COVID death.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Like what the fuck, man?
Well, on top of that, it's like, okay, you have to isolate for this many days. It's like, okay, now we're changing to this. It's like, can't we just have some consistency?
And I think it's also kind of fucked people up because knowing
for sure.
It's fucked a lot of people up in a lot of ways. It's fucked up our labor force because myself included, I'm apprehensive to want to work with a company because if they're going to pull the whole, where's your fucking vaccine thing? I'm like, get fucked. I'll just be an independent worker and not worry about what you think.
Yeah.
And that's causing some more people to be, you know, into the giggers doing their own gig things like Uber or whatever, but not working at a place. Because even when I worked, they're trying to make everybody get a fucking card. I remember some people fucking bitched. Because that was tough, man. That was tough during those COVID times, man. I stopped applying for jobs because I realized during the whole 2 years I was applying for jobs, like nobody'd fucking call me. And I realized, oh shit, a lot of these jobs are fake. They're fake because nothing drives domain authority up more than a fake job, man.
Jobs? Hell yeah.
Just get a website, post a bunch of fake ass fucking jobs, ridiculous salaries, and then all these people are spending time on your website, filling things out. And dude, I just got tired of it, like putting my heart and soul into like, I want to work at this company. I did research on you and I make this resume and cover letter, and no, not a fucking human being will ever see it because it doesn't pass the algorithm. It doesn't pass their formatting issue or whatever.
I'd say the worst of all, I'll probably end on this as well.
Right.
The worst of all was the destruction to the mental state of people. Like,
dude, yeah.
Our younger generations are going to, this is like, we're only just starting to feel the ripple effects, and it's only been 4 years. It's only just starting. Like, we have emotionally stunted a large generation of kids, not only because of what people don't realize around masks, particularly with kid development, is kids need facial cues in order to understand, to like body language is very important for communicating. And so when people were wearing masks, kids lost that facial cue. And so a lot of kids, like, their development was stunted because basically they were forced. Well, one, you had people forcing into their homes, which some kids have domestic violence situations, which they go to school to escape. And so that kind of screwed things. On top of that, not everybody had internet access or, hardware to be able to, like Skype in or link or Zoom in or whatever. But on top of that, like, Now, like my sister, for example, she does not go shopping anymore. She hates going out in crowds now because of COVID. Like the amount of kids that I see that wear masks now, even when they're like by themselves or in the car, like seeing people wear a mask when they're by themselves in a car is one of the most saddening things I've ever seen. Like the amount of fear that person has been put through to be able to force them to think that they have to wear a mask by themselves in their own car in an isolated environment. Like that's just insane.
For a virus with a 99% survivability rate.
Yep. And we still don't even know the origins of. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. It is a retarding is the correct word of development. It is
a massive retardation.
Yeah, it is what they call it. Somebody called it the prolonging of adolescence, and somebody even made that case that colleges, that's all they do now is prolong adolescence. I'm like, oh, I could see that. But yeah, kids are all sorts of jacked up. Like, first off, a lot of them don't want to drive, flat out. I'm surprised my oldest has a driver's license, and my daughter, she's 16. She has her permit now, but she needs to get her license. But yeah, I'm not the only. A lot of parents have to harp on their kids. Just have to nag to get a license, and they don't want to fucking drive because they got buses. If they're in a city, they don't want to drive. That's for sure. And I noticed that when I was in the Marine Corps too, as a combat instructor. So each new class, each new cycle of students that would come, get 300 at a time in the company. And then I always ask my question, like, who here has a driver's license? Not a lot. It kept lowering and lowering every fucking cycle.
Damn.
And it's like, fuck, dude, we are creating, like, I was worried about that as a combat instructor, like seeing things, this need to, yeah, but the cell phone, it's certainly a strange thing because people like to throw that up in front of their face like a social shield in public. Like, how fucking dare you approach me and talk to me while I'm on my cell phone? Like, fuck you. Like, and I'm just waiting for the day where it is socially unacceptable to walk up and just talk to somebody. They're going to be like, excuse me, did you submit a request?
Did you
to talk
DM me
to
first?
Yeah, you need to submit a request with these proper channels. You don't walk up and just talk to me, you creep.
Yep. Sadly, I think that's probably not that far off.
I hope. You know what?
That's why I hate TikTok. I think what people don't realize, and we're just now starting to see is, and there's another reason why I really like Isaac Asimov is, technology is great, but it's very much a double-edged sword. And he portrays this in his books. He has this technology called like a tri-viewer or whatever, which is basically kind of like our Skype or whatever. And basically, what he portrays is that the people who only ever interact through the tri-viewer are very socially anxiety ridden. They are very sensitive to disease and stuff because they're very vulnerable and stuff like that. And I'd definitely say a lot of it's being emulated now, where people are not wanting to socialize that much unless it's online. People are not hanging out in person anymore. It's getting pretty scary actually to think that in my lifetime we went from literally people outside playing, hanging out, computers were a second thought, to now, like you said, you can't even walk down the street without 90% of the people glued to their phone, not even looking up. It's sad. There's a video that I've seen called "These Systems Are Failing," which is a short animation clip, but it's very, very powerful, and basically is about how people's addictions are causing them to throw away their morals and throw away their motivation and become NPCs or zombies or whatever the term you want to use is. Yeah.
NPCs. My brother likes that one.
I've never really liked it, but
yeah. Dude, yeah, for sure. And it's fucking up the way this younger people talk to each other. And that makes me wonder, because when I listen, that joke about soft skills because I'd see a lot of guys, especially at Gonzaga, that just observing the students, and they talk to women as if they're fucking gay. I'm like, do you think that's how you build rapport with women, is talking to them like you're a woman? Like, I guess that's one way if you want to be only in the friend zone forever. Sure. I mean, but I don't think they know how to talk. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to talk to women. They don't know how to, soft skills.
That's another detriment of technology, like the dating apps. You know, nobody even thinks to like walk up to a person anymore and say, "Hey, are you single? Do you want to go out for coffee?" Like, it's literally.
No, you'd get an assault charge for that.
yeah,
Holy
like
shit.
People are literally more worried about literally what you just said, getting charged for something than they would walk up to somebody get rejected. Like, it's pretty sad. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they do. There was this guy, it was Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you ever listened to him, but Jordan Peterson was like, on the average dating site, the average man has to click, like, he has to swipe 1,000 fucking times just to get one date. I'm like, dude, that's horrible. Yeah, and then it also rises up another strange phenomenon, like the dick pics. Like, people don't know how to talk to women to the point where they're just like,
they just think sending a photo.
Send her a photo of my dick. It might work. It worked the last time, so maybe if I do 1,000 more swipes and send a fucking dick pic, it might work. But yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah, there's a divide. There is a divide, and I hope it gets better. I'm an optimist, though. I'm an optimist. I'm a hopeful person. But yeah, we've been running at 3 hours 25 minutes. So last but not least, probably more important, where can people find you?
Yeah, so my website is 404notfound.com, FOUR not found, FOUR.com. My handle is OGLinuk, OGLINUK. It's my GitHub. I don't have socials, so pretty much just GitHub and my website. Okay,
OGLinuk. I thought that was your last name. I was like, man, Daniel Ogluk. I'm not going to fuck with that.
Nah, it's black like the color.
Oh, Black. So you're Daniel Black?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's an easy one to fucking remember. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys, you heard it. 404 not found. What about Twitter, Facebook,
Nope.
LinkedIn?
Nope. My LinkedIn is, I think it's at OGLinuk as well.
Okay.
I don't use LinkedIn that much.
That's good. So. You got one for your business. That's very important, having a LinkedIn profile for your business.
Yeah. Definitely you need a LinkedIn profile if you don't have one, but I just don't use it.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Thank you for having me, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Be sure to like, subscribe, smash that bell for more data-driven updates. Bye.